Hello, 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 everyone. This is Dr. David checking in. Welcome to Killer Influence Secrets of Covert Hypnosis. Literally, the webinar that started it all. Oh, so many years ago, we started pulling back the curtain on some of the most powerful hypnotic influence techniques I've ever come across. Truly game-changing techniques and strategies that just make people want to do what you want them to do and feel good about it, right? Without ever having to lie or cheat or steal. The content of tonight's webinar has truly charted the course of my life. It has played a part in every single phase of it from the time I first started learning about these things back in the early 90s all the way up to today. There is no theory that we're going to share with you tonight. It's all proven stuff. And you don't even have to believe it. Thank you, Shamila. How do you have this energy? I feel 40 when I'm 21. I can show you how to do that, believe it or not. Amazing things happen when you control your state. But I digress. There's no theory in tonight's webinar. You don't even have to believe what I'm teaching you. All you have to do, believe it or not, is actually do it, right? So let's make sure that before I get into my bio and all the cool stuff, let's make sure that this isn't going to be a waste of your next, oh, I don't know, 2.5 to 3 hours. And yes, I just did say 2.5 to 3 hours. Why? Because we believe that in a world where everybody's promising, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, and it'll change your life, I think we need to put up or shut up. I think as a, if we're going to be real, right, that we need to give you something that you can put into operation, that you can experience right off the bat and prove that this is no BS, right? Because let's be honest. Everybody in every webinar is teaching, is telling you their stuff will change your life and how amazing it'll be. But how many of them are actually going to give you the experience of it? How many of you are going to say, hey, test this out right now and see how it works, right? Not many are willing to do that. I'm always willing to put my money where my mouth is. I'm always willing to put my techniques up to anybody's on the planet. That's a pretty bold claim. I'm feeling a little spicy today, right? Maybe it's because I just got my feng shui done in my office and the energy's flowing super good today, baby, right? So let's find out if this is going to be the next the next best use of the next 2 or 3 hours, and to make sure that you're not running west looking for a sunrise. Does that make sense? If you're with me so far, type I'm with you in the chat so I can see you. Shout out to my YouTubers out in YouTube land, my amazing Zoom family, those of you who have been veterans of Planet David, or AKA the Snyderverse. Thank you so much for your continued faith and putting these skills into application. Most importantly, to our new people, the people who just found us either because they saw some weird guy in a vest on a YouTube video and was intrigued by the content. Maybe you saw our Forbidden Secrets of Human Influence, webinar or advertisements, and you're like, ooh, forbidden stuff. Yeah, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to teach you was and is in certain contexts forbidden. Many of the things that really, really work were some of the best kept secrets in the psychotherapy world for many, many years. Right. And in fact, if certain people hadn't passed away, there was no way that you would be able to be on this webinar right now learning it, because only somebody with a doctor in front of their name was ever supposed to have it. Right. So these things are out there. There's good people using them, and there's not so good people using them. I want to show you how to not only use these things for your highest good and the good of everybody you love and care about. I want to show you how to use these against the bad people, how do bad people use them against you, so that you can protect yourself from unwanted, unwelcome, unethical influence. If that's something that you can get behind, if that's something you agree with, type that's for me in the chat. Through Fire is asking, how do we get on the Zoom meeting? If Mia will post the Zoom link in the YouTube chat, you guys can log in that way. And I invite you all, if you're watching us on YouTube, please don't be bashful. Go ahead and log into Zoom, right? I'm good with it, right? Keith Van says, I'm an old Planet David goat for real. I remember you, Keith. You've been around a while. You've been on almost as many webinars as me, right? All right, so I'm going to ask you guys a bunch of questions. If you can answer yes to any two of them, you're in the right place. This is going to be the next best use of your time. Are you guys ready? Type yes, I'm ready in the chat. Cool. Excellente. So, how many of you in your in the middle of the night when you're fantasizing about all the things that could be, how many of you have ever fantasized about being irresistibly super attractive to members of the opposite sex, maybe even members of the same sex? How many of you would like to find to move through the world if everybody you meet feeling that you're the most charming, fascinating, irresistible person they've ever met? If that's you, type it in the chat, right? If you'd like to banish fear and insecurity from your life and move through the world, not just being assertive and powerful, but actually feeling calm and comfortable anywhere in any circumstance. If that's something that you'd like to have more for yourself than anything else, which, by the way, I think that's where everything has to start. That's my personal opinion. Type that's for me in the chat, right? If you'd love to banish fear, Michelle, then you're in the right place. I'm going to show you how to begin doing that. Okay. If you'd like to make more money on your job, if you'd like to get that promotion you've been going for, if you're an entrepreneur and you'd like to book more clients or find ways to market more effectively to those clients, right? And have them salivating to work with you, type that's for me in the chat. Okay. If, like I mentioned earlier, you've been on the receiving end of some of these techniques in a less than ethical way, if you've been manipulated or come away from any kind of an experience with a feeling of just being exhausted or drained, or saying yes to something you really didn't know and you don't know why, or you said no to something and you didn't know why, right? Or you said no and then all of a sudden you found yourself doing it anyway. If you'd like to learn how to detect and protect yourself from that kind of influence, go ahead and type that's for me in the chat. Okay. If you'd like to move through the world feeling good about who you are and having people thinking and feeling and acting the way you want them to, and naturally following your lead like it was their own idea, without having to lie, cheat, steal, whatever, you know what to do. Type it in the chat, right? If you'd like to nail job interview after job interview after job interview and have literally, even if you're not qualified for the job, I shouldn't even say this on a public webinar like this, but using the technologies that I'm sharing with you, I'm going to be sharing with you tonight, my intention to share with you tonight. I've had several clients walk into job interviews with missing half the skills that the job required. Don't know how they got the interview, but maybe they use these techniques to get the interview. They walk in, they apply these techniques, they get offered the job anyway, right? And they're up front and say, I don't have those skills, but what do you want in an employee? How do you know when you've got the right employee? The floodgates open and boom, the magic happens. Ethically, honestly, if you'd like that kind of ability, that kind of job security in your life, or if you're working your way up through a corporation and you'd like to be able to just move up the ladder faster and smoother with less and less friction, type that for me in the chat, right? Um, again, these are none of this stuff is made up. These are all things I've done. These are all things my students are regularly doing. I don't usually talk about this on the beginning of the webinar, but I had one student, he came to the first day of our CPI training, which is the foundation of what I'm going to be sharing with you. Conversational persuasion and influence. That night, he went out and he closed a $1 billion deal with the government using just the technologies he learned in that one day. I had another lady come in. Her name was Tina. She was the city manager. She was a manager for the city of Poway. I can talk about it now because she's retired and she's not living in California anymore, right? She came to one day of training, went into a budget meeting the next day, and got them to raise her budget more than the budget allowed using just these techniques. She was so excited. She came back the next day, wrote me a $10,000 check for our platinum coaching program. Okay. What if you could talk to somebody in such a way? How you could, by show of hands, you think that's pretty impressive? Just half a day of training, and all of a sudden these results are happening. We've got more, right? But let me ask you a question. And you might hear a little buzzing in the background because we got the garbage truck outside. Let me ask you a question. How many of you hates small talk. Like you see someone and maybe you know them, maybe you don't, and you're in proximity and you know you have to say something, right? But you're like, and you want to say something cool or something interesting so that the person you're talking to actually likes you. How many of you have just gone dry, just instantly choked on the spot? Wait, anybody? What if you could 100% of the time? That's a big claim. I understand that. Don't believe me? Go test it. What if you could 100% of the time walk up to anyone, ask a few simple questions, and they start talking your ear off, and they do 80 to 90% of the talking for however long you're together, right? And when they leave, you know more about them than their best friends do. They did 80% of the talking, and they think you're the absolute most amazing, fascinating conversationalist they've ever been in. Would that be useful? And what if you could do that anywhere, anytime, under any situation or circumstance? The therapy clients, negotiations, mediations, the singles bar, speed dating, parties, right? I'm going to share those techniques. I'm going to share that technology with you tonight. Those are just tiny pieces of the entire Secrets of Human Influence system, which has as its core the Killer Influence system that is the title of tonight's webinar. Killer Influence was the second product I ever created, and it has stood the test of time. It has hands down beaten every single other persuasion and influence system out there. So what I'm going to share with you tonight, it's not theory. It's proven, and you don't got to believe it. You just got to have a few fundamentals and be willing to do it. So that being said, if you're willing and able to follow my instructions and my directions, and you want to have some experiences and you want to just experience these things for yourself and use them in the real world to make your life better, type "that's for me" in the chat. Excellent. So 3 more points, and then I'm going to get right into content tonight. First of all, I know you're going to have questions, right? And I love questions, but the more questions I answer, the further off topic I tend to get unless the question is really targeted to where we are in tonight's training. And tonight is a training, right? I'm not going to tease you. Well, I am going to tease you. Let's be honest. I'm going to tease the frick out of you, but I'm going to give you some pearls that you can experience, that you can take out into the world tomorrow or tonight and prove them to yourself and change the game already. And then as you decide and you realize the power of these things and you want to take access to the whole system, I'll show you how to do that. So if this is the scope of everything there is to learn in the field of human influence and just the Killer Influence system, tonight I have time for this much. But I promise you, if you stay on with me till the end of tonight's webinar, I will take you as far as I can in the time that we have. I will teach you as much as it's possible for me to teach you without overwhelming. In fact, I will probably overwhelm you at some point. Why? Because I love this stuff. And I'm so passionate about it. I just did an interview. I'm going to be doing a guest appearance on the Neuromastery Breakthrough Summit this weekend. And I did the interview with the Andrea, who is the person running the show. And I was just chattering away and I could just see like the overwhelm until I stopped and I started asking questions back. Why? Because I love this stuff. And I love what it can do for you. I love watching your lights come on, right? So I want you to move through the world doing well by doing good. I want you to use these superpowers that I'm going to share with you to make your life better, to be an example to the people who know and love you, right? And shouldn't say this, to cause fear in your enemies just by showing the power by which you move through the world. So that being said, if you have a question, type it in the chat. If it's relevant to what we're going to be doing tonight, then I will happily answer it. If it's not, or I don't see it, I will opt to let the question go. If you still want that question answered, just keep repeating it. If I don't answer it, I invite my veterans, the people that have been around Planet David and have used the technologies to answer that question. Jamila, that's a great question, and I'm put a pin in it, and I promise you we'll get to it. Um, I want my veterans to go ahead and answer that question. If you don't, if you, you know, if the answer you get from the veterans in Planet David, if you're a veteran in Planet David, by the way, type your name, where you're checking in from, and how long you've been a student of our technologies and how you've been using them, and how they've changed your life. Right. The more, again, people need to know that this is real. This is not BS. These are not smoke screens. These techniques are terrifyingly good at what we do. Right. Terrence says legend. Thank you so much for that. Terrence, you've been around a while, my friend. Um, Seth in St. Paul, Minnesota. David, since forever, it only seems longer. Yeah. I make fun of Seth all the time, but because more people recognize the back of his head because he's always in the front row of my audiences. So that's the final way you can get your question answered is there will be a replay because people always ask, is there going to be a replay of tonight's training? There's always a replay, right? The difference is that when you go watch the replay, you miss out on any of the bonuses and the special offers and things of that nature that are part of what you have a right to if you go through the whole process of tonight's webinar, right? We're really good at what we do. We're going to give you some really powerful techniques and tools that you can take out into the world that are going to significantly move the needle for you. And there's a whole lot more where that comes from. Obviously, we don't have time for that. So we're going to give you things that you can put into practice right away. But if you're like most people, you want access to the whole thing, right? I'll show you how to do that. Part one tonight is going to be all about foundations and fundamentals, the principles and the ideas that you absolutely have to have in your head and in your body to apply the skills effectively in the world. Now, most of them are really, really but simple, right? I'm not kidding. The true power of these methods lie in their simplicity. The fastest way to screw them up is to try and get creative. Okay. You get more creative as they become more and more a part of who you are internally. At first, they're going to feel odd. Why? Because they deviate. They're different from the way you normally organically move through the world. But as you continue to apply them and you see the responses that these techniques are generating in you, your neurology will start to use them more and more and more because your neurology isn't stupid. Your neurology is always looking for the fastest, most effective, most efficient way to accomplish anything. The only thing standing in your way is the old you. And the old you will always try to go back to what's easy, what's familiar, right? Well, if you keep doing what's familiar, you'll get familiar results. Most of you, and I'm going to mind read this. I'm going to make an assumption here, and you tell me if I'm true or not. Most of you signed up for tonight's webinar because you want things to change. You want things to be better, less random. Would that be true or not true? Go ahead and answer the question. It's okay. All right. So doesn't it stand to reason that if you want a different result, you have to do something different? Okay. So the question becomes, do you want to be different enough to do what's necessary to level your life up? Anybody who tells you there's no effort involved, anybody who tells you that there's not going to be any unfamiliarity or a learning curve, they're trying to sell you something. And I'm not going to sell you anything tonight. What I am going to do is give you an opportunity to purchase something you know you already want. And that's a big difference because that's how you move through the world, being powerful, ethical, honest, and feeling tremendously good about giving people the opportunity to get what they most want and desire. When you understand that formula, everyone you meet will want to do what you want them to do. And they'll think it's their idea because they're going to give you their very own reasons for why they want to do it. And that is always the best reason for getting anyone to do anything. You'll never have to lie. You'll never have to manipulate. You'll never have to coerce or blackmail, right? Certainly there are techniques out there like that. We don't apply them. We don't encourage them. It's not necessary in 99.9% of the human interactions that we're going for a win-win. Okay. And that's what I want you to understand. We're the good guys, right? But there are guys and gals out there. You got to watch out for the girls because no one sees them coming. There are people out there who misuse these skills, and they've got certain types of personalities in their crosshairs. I want to teach you, if you'll let me, through the systems that we're going to offer you, through ongoing trainings and things of that nature. I want to teach you how to take yourself out of the crosshairs. I want to teach you how to stay off become not a non-target, right? Someone that they're going to think twice about trying to interact with in a less than resourceful way. To move through the world with calmness, comfort, power, and strength. That's what I want to do for you. Why? Because I was that person. I was the person who was victimized. I was the person who was lied to. I was the person who was targeted and bullied and gaslighted and future promised. I was that guy, right? And I spent a lot of years and a lot of time and energy working through that stuff. And I made a promise to myself that if I figured this out, I was never going to be powerless again. And I was never going to allow other people to go through it if there was something I could do about it. I've been a self-defense instructor all of my life, which brings us to David's little bio. Okay. First of all, my name is Dr. David Snyder, if you didn't already know that. I'm one of the world's leading authorities, according to globalgurus.org, on neurolinguistic programming. I've authored over 15 different products on various forms of human influence, everything from advanced attraction and sexuality enhancement techniques for lovers and partners and things of that nature, all the way up to languages, programs on how to heal using the power of language, how to create the most powerful conversational persuasion and influence protocols on the planet. I've pioneered many forms of vibrational healing. I've had a practice in Solana Beach, California, where my specialty has been treating physiological illness that has its roots in repressed emotion, negative manifestation, pathological manifestation, if you will. So I've seen inside the hearts and minds of literally tens of thousands of people, either through my therapy work, my coaching practice, or in my trainings, right? And every time I open that box and I look inside a person's heart, I see the same things. A scared little child, desperate to be loved and accepted and terrified of being alone. And I have honed over the years skills for giving that child, that inner child that wants all those wonderful things, the resources they need to become unstoppable, and the outer tools, language patterns, the different things you'll learn tonight, the tools, the external tools to go out and apply that new energy, that new identity to write your own ticket in this life. I've dedicated my life to uncovering those secrets. Work mostly for myself. I'm going to be right up. I'm not a big believer in altruism. I am a big believer in enlightened selfishness, though. And so I searched these things for me. And then when I see other people suffering, other people disempowered, it physically hurts me to watch that because I was that person. And I have to find ways for them to level up. And that's what tonight's all about. Tonight is me handing you a bridge to change your life. Okay. Last thing. By the way, I've also a 10th degree black belt in the martial arts, and I have more energy healing credentials than McDonald's sells hamburgers. I am a licensed acupuncturist in the state of California. I have 2 doctorates, one in acupuncture and Chinese medicine from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine, and a doctorate, which is a spiritual degree in Taoist Chinese energetic medicine. I'm also a certified teacher in the Nyingma Buddhism spiritual tradition. So I have a lot of other trainings that come into the things and inform the things we're going to be talking about tonight, regardless of what context you're here for. The techniques you're going to learn tonight are categorically the most universal, powerful, simplest things that you can do right away to get people hanging on your every word, salivating to do what you want them to do, and saying yes after they just told you no. Does any of that sound useful? Or any of that sound like something that you'd like to learn more about? Type that's for me in the chat if it's something you'd like to learn more about. Okay, so if you stay on tonight's webinar, here's my goal. I want to find, okay, here's my intention, the superpowers we're going to talk about. I'm going to teach you the fastest, most powerful, and ethical way to influence anyone to like, love, trust, and obey you in as little as 20 minutes. Is that useful? Right? If so, I'm going to teach you once again how to have people hanging on your every word. People will do what they want, what you want them to do, and they'll think it's their idea. Right? Um, how to have people salivating to do what you want them to do, how to control your emotions and remove resistance to your influence. That's one of the big game changers. In fact, I'm going to Vegas in a couple of weeks, actually less than 7 days, about 10 days. I'm going to be out in Las Vegas teaching that exact class about resistance and how to remove it and how to get people just wanting to do what you want them to do. Right. Finally, I'm going to share with you. Dominic says, I will see you there. Yes, you will. I have your time blocked out, my friend. I'm going to teach you the exact steps necessary to go from interesting information to maximum transformation in minimum time. So, does that sound like a good agenda? Okay. So, let's start with the most fundamental, crucial thing you. And here's what I mean by that: the most powerful reason a person can have for doing the thing you want them to do. I'm going to say that 2 more times. By the way, you'll know something's important because I repeated at least 3 times. So if you're taking notes, write this down. Michael Flores says, what day are you at Hypnothoughts you teaching? I'm teaching all 3 days. I'm the only one they gave 3 spots to, as well as a 3-day pre and a 4-day post. They love, I bring a lot of people to Hypnothoughts, and a lot of people show up to see me. So they tend to be very generous in giving me time to share, because they know when I go to Hypnothoughts, I go out there to work. I don't go out there to show everybody how great I am. I just go out there to teach because they're my friends and I love them. Back to this. What was the last thing I said before the hypno thoughts question completely derailed me? Can anybody type that in the chat for me? Because it was good. I was on a roll. Oh, the most powerful reason that anybody can have for doing what you want them to do is their very own reason. That's the second repetition. The most powerful reason that anybody can have for doing what you want them to do is the reason they come up with, their very own reason. So think about this. What if you could, through a simple set of questions, cause anybody to give you the exact reasons that they have for wanting to do the very thing you want them to do and like and love you for it? What would that do if you had that superpower? What would that be like? What stop for one and really just imagine it. Like anyone you talk to, kind of like how many of you have ever seen this is kind of probably not the best. This is probably not the best example or the best metaphor to use. How many of you ever saw the television show Lucifer? If you're a geek like me and you love those kind of comic book based shows, type it in the chat. Okay, so here's the thing. What was Lucifer's real superpower? Anybody know? What was in the comic book character, not the guy with the horns, right? His beauty, nobody could lie, manipulating emotions. Ah, Robert nailed it. Robert nailed it. He would always ask the people, what is it you truly desire? What is it you really want? Right? And they would tell him. And as they told him, it was like they went into a trance, right? And all of a sudden, because the thing they wanted most was right there in front of them. What if you had that ability? There you go. Ross is saying getting people to admit their innermost desires. What if you had that ability? What could you do with it? Ladies and gentlemen, no BS. You stay and you follow the commands and the instructions on tonight's webinar, you're going to come away with that power. It's scary, but it's exactly what this webinar is designed to teach you. Okay. Now, remember, this technique, the techniques actually, cuts both ways. If you use it in a good, ethical, moral, win-win way, you will move through the world and the seas will part, metaphorically speaking. If you use it unethically, the sea is going to hunt you down. Okay? Why? Because what we're talking about at the most primal, fundamental level of human influence is two basic principles: the principle of identification or identity, and the principle of emotional needs and values. And when you elicit, when you evoke from another human being the things they most emotionally need and want and desire, they go into a profoundly altered state. A state that literally, like if you've ever watched a cat, if you've ever taken catnip and just teased the cat with it, you know the look they get, right? That's what happens. Because human beings are moving through the world desperately trying to satisfy their emotional needs. And it's the process is actually really, really simple if you have a few basic foundations first. There's only two questions that you need: what's important about, and how do you know? Right? Now, getting to those two questions, there may be a little bit more involved, but at the end of the day, being able to ask those two questions, pay attention to the responses, and use those responses in what you say next will stimulate and trigger that same Lucifer effect in people, where they're just talking about the things they most need and want and desire. In fact, if you combine the different techniques that I've hinted at, they will run off at the mouth so fully and so powerfully, you won't be able to get rid of them. In fact, one of the things I'm going to challenge you to go out and do as part of this webinar is I want you to take the techniques I teach you, and I want you to use them on people that you just encounter that, don't take this the wrong way, don't really matter, that don't have any huge amount of impact or influence on your life, just to see what happens. Like your bartenders, your waitresses, your maitre d's, people who are doing a job and you have to communicate with them, but they're not a major, like they're not going to be the person signing off on your next raise, or evaluating you for your next promotion, or vetting you for a new job. Work with Practice these things on people where the pressure's off, and see the power of them, so that your unconscious mind logs them as a success and is willing to do them more and more often. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, type it in the chat. Right? I'm going to give you a challenge. I want you to go out and use you can pick any one of the techniques that I share with you tonight. Take that one technique, and I recommend you use the echo technique because it's the most universal. Take that technique and use it on 50 people in the next 7 days, or 10 days. It's 5 people a day. I would recommend 10 people a day. But I promise you, once you start using it, you're not going to want to stop. Right? Don't believe me. Just do the techniques. Okay. So Divish Khatri is asking, is this manipulation? It's manipulation if you're deceiving the person. It's manipulation if you're trying to finagle them into a situation where they're not winning too. Right? It's manipulation if you're doing this from a place of absolute selfishness and malevolence or coercion. If you're doing this so people get what they want by doing what you want, we call that a win-win, and that's influence. Right? So I draw the line with manipulation at anything that forces people to say yes to you without their whole heart being in it, if that makes any kind of sense. Right? If you're, for example, if you're if you're selling something to somebody, right, and they're saying, well, I need to think about it, and all of a sudden you hit them with a lot of pressure and saying, well, if you were a real man or woman, you wouldn't need to wait, you could just be decisive. That to me is manipulative. That's poking the bear and priming them in a reactant way. And we don't advocate that. Right? We don't advocate gaslighting or any of those things. Certainly, these techniques can be used that way, but it's not really necessary. That's the point, right? And I know I'm spending a lot of time on the ethical side of things, so people always bring it up. You see, there's 3 or 4 reasons why people won't use this. Okay, they'll come to the seminar, they'll take the notes, and then they'll think they know it because they did the reps, and they will when they leave the seminar, but they'll never use it again. And then they'll think, oh, I learned it and it didn't work. Well, they never used it. The other reason that people won't use this is because they think in some way what you're doing is unethical. Most of us, I believe, although we're all very, very selfish, we're all very, very selfish, right? A lot of people seem to think of any form of influence, any form of being persuasive or charismatic intentionally as manipulation. And it's just not the case. It's just not the case, right? If it weren't for this charisma and this ability to be decisive and this ability to persuade, we'd have no leaders. We'd have chaos everywhere. People who refuse to influence wind up being the most influenced ones around. You cannot avoid influence. Therefore, you have 2 choices: hide in the mountains or learn the tools of influence so you can manage it, right? The other part is they think that they'll get caught. Here's the best part about these techniques. Even if you get caught, they still work and nobody cares. Why? Because you're going to learn as a byproduct of tonight's training that this is the most desirable, fun, fulfilling, and ethical way for one human being to communicate and understand and be understood by another human being. Think about this for a moment. Jeffrey, our leaders usually suck. Yes, they do. But still, they became our leaders. How did they do that? So if people who suck can use these techniques and win, imagine what somebody who doesn't suck, who uses these techniques, can do, right? So how many, what was I just talking about before Jeffrey interrupted my pattern again. So Jen is saying, what is this technique? Well, it's not just one technique. There's 3. There's 3 that are on my list to show you. I'll try and get through them as much as I can, but the first one's going to be a game changer by itself. What if you had the ability to get people to talk about themselves in such a way that you had so much information about them that you could predict exactly what decisions they were going to make, what behaviors would stimulate them towards or away from something? That's what this first technique that we're going to share with you is going to do. It simply is the most powerful way to communicate with another human being. Circling back to the loop I opened, what if you knew the exact way to communicate to someone that they felt completely heard and understood, that they were approved of and accepted and validated, that you actually saw and heard them, right? And they had the feelings of connection and closeness that they've always fantasized, that they've been moving through the world searching for. How would you feel if somebody could communicate like that with you? That when they talked back to you, you basically, it was like they were reading your mind. It's like they knew you, they understood you, you were cut from the same cloth. What would that be like for you? Would that be something you'd want more of or less of? Okay. Jose says, I want to learn to talk and communicate to anyone. You will. Answer my question, guys. Amazing, right? If someone could talk to you that way, wouldn't you just love that person? Wouldn't you find as many excuses as possible to spend time with this person? Wouldn't you make up shit? Reasons to hang out, right? Now think about this. What if you knew this person knew how to do that and they chose not to do it? You knew they had the tools, the skills, the ability, but they didn't do it. Who's the jerk now? What if you were that person? What if you had the ability to look at somebody, to open them up and talk directly to their heart and make them feel so good about themselves, and because of that, by extension, you, to make them feel heard, understood, validated, accepted in a completely ethical, non creepy way, and then you didn't do it. You chose not to do that. Even though you know in your heart of hearts, it's the most neurologically desirable way for one human nervous system to communicate with another nervous system. Who's the jerk now? Let's take jerk off the menu and let's choose to become powerful. Let's choose to move through the world showing what beautiful, wonderful, ethical, loving influence can do. Because if you do that, if you adopt these skills and you come from that heart centered place, you're going to radiate a charisma that people find absolutely enchanting and irresistible. Yes, some people will look at you because they think of you as competition because you're getting all the attention and they're not. And that's going to piss them off. The hell with those people. They're not here. You are. Here's another thing. I never really talked about this, but my killer influence students, my CPI students, what if actually knowing these techniques made you a better human being? What if you started to move through the world feeling an ongoing sense of joy and playfulness and curiosity? And the more you use these techniques, the better the version of yourself you expressed. Believe it or not, that's actually a byproduct of this training. Don't believe me, veterans, talk about who you were when you started the training. Talk about what happened to you as you went through it and you learned it. Just type it in the chat. You don't have to believe me. Just listen. Listen to them. Okay. While they're doing that, if you're going to stay with me tonight, let's talk about one of the most powerful things that we can talk about today. I'm going to teach you the secret to everything I've just talked about, everything I've alluded to, everything I've claimed. It's the secret back door to the human nervous system. And once you have this understanding, anyone you meet will open up like a book and you can just read whatever you want if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Would that be useful? Would that be helpful? Would that change the game for you? Okay, then that's where we're going first. Before I go into the echo technique, let me ask you a question. What is it you most want to use these techniques for tonight? In other words, when you saw the webinar, when you saw the advertisements, the promotions for tonight's training, there was something you wanted to do with it. There was something you wanted to achieve with it. True or not true? What was that thing? If you feel safe and you feel comfortable and you're trusting what I'm saying, type that thing in the chat so I can make sure that before you leave tonight, at the end of the webinar, you have the tool to do that. You know how to apply the things I'm going to share with you to do that. So go ahead and share that with me if you would, so I can help you better. Reach the closed-minded. Okay. Echo is repeating back words to people. Yes, Echo is repeating back words to people. I want to be able to safely persuade people. Choice in every area of your life. Oh, Douglas, boy, you're going to have some fun with this. Jose says, communicate to everyone I meet. City says, find love. Oh, you're going to be beating them off with a stick. That's actually one of the, I shouldn't say this, but that's actually one of the downsides of learning this information. When you actually start applying this information properly, you're going to be attracting so many people than ever before. The problem is you're going to be saying no to more people than ever before because they're not going to match your criteria. They're not going to match your emotional needs and values and rules. Dominic says love and influence. Brian says negotiate, calm angry patience. Oh, we can really help you with that. Tammy says I would like to gain trust to better help people. Perfect. Francesca says how to be found by loving people. Oh, awesome. Confidence for sure. Reach my target audience, grow my fan base. Perfect. Excellent. So Rhino God gave us a spoiler. The first technique, the secret back door to the human nervous system, is called the echo technique. The echo technique is all about understanding how human beings go through the process of their thoughts and their beliefs and their values and their feelings and their memories, and compressing that all down into words that come out of their mouth. I want you to think of each word that comes out of a person's mouth like a little zip file that only they have the code to unlock. And because of that, when you hear those words, your brain tries to put them back together and assign its own words to what they said. We're not going to do that anymore. In fact, I'm not even going to give you all the theory. If you want the theory, grab the Secrets of Human Influence package, and I'll give you all the reasons and the psycho-neurological reasons why this technique works. You don't need any of that to use this. But before we get into the echo technique, there is one thing that I want you guys to be able to do. And I want to give you an experience of this first. Then I'm going to demo the echo technique for you. Then I'm going to show you how to get access to the complete system if that's where you want to go. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to circle back. I'm going to pick up with the echo technique, and we're going to go into the emotional bonding checklist. We're going to go into resistance removal. And we're going to go deeper into the echo technique, how to do it, why to do it, and why it becomes the foundation of everything. That's my intention. If you guys are okay with that, type "that's great" in the chat. I'm ready for that. So I know, right? Again, this is a partnership. So perfect. Excellent. Okay. So first thing, you have to learn to control your state. In other words, when you're moving through the world and it's in an energy of playfulness, of curiosity, of victory, when you're feeling like a winner, how easy is it to do stuff? Right? How many of you, by a show of "that's me" in the chat, would like to be up to 30% better at everything? What if you could be 30% better at everything instantly? What if you could learn thousands of times faster by just doing one thing? Would that be a game changer for you? Yes or yes? Here's the secret right now. If you can do this one thing, the floodgates, the gates are going to open, and you're going to be able to do all of this so much faster, so much better, so much more perfectly than anybody else on the planet. You guys ready? Here it is. All you got to do is be playful, be happy, be joyful. If you can move through the world embodying and feeling happy and playful and curious and joyful, your brain will create new neurons faster than if you were serious or feeling driven, right? That's not David making that up. That's the science, right? In fact, what I'll do, Seth, if you wouldn't mind, if you have it available, post the link to the scientific study that demonstrates and tells us that in the chat so people can show that I'm not making this up. Okay? You'll be up to 31% faster on your feet. You'll be up to 31% more creative, 31% more aware, 31% more charismatic, and the people you seek to influence will be up to 31% more compliant. What if you heard yes 30% more than you're currently hearing it? What would having your yes quotient upped by a third do for your life? Would it change the game? Would it move the needle? Yes or yes? That's secret number one. If you're playful and you're funny, well, not funny, but playful and happy and joyful and curious, you will neutralize every person's defense mechanisms you interact with. You'll just fly under the radar, right? So that opens the gates of rapport. So let's do something right now. Would it be okay how many people here, just by a show of "that's me" or "not me" in the chat, how many of you can feel full on pleasure, playfulness, and awesome on demand? How many of you can do it? If you can, type that in the chat, like flipping a switch. How many of you can do it because of the training you got from me? That's probably a better question. Richard says almost, right? Agnes says, yeah, me, right? Probably. Yep, sometimes. Okay. I'm going to share with you a technique. And if you practice this technique every day, your brain and your neurology will change. And you'll be able to apply these things faster. Is that okay? Can we do that? Okay. Now, in your killer influence training and your secrets of human influence training, we devote a whole day to nothing but state control, going into and out of any state you want on demand in any order, any sequence, linking it to your physiology, transferring those feelings into other people and having them actually respond on a subconscious level in a way that you can test. We leverage all of this. We don't have time for that here. So I'm going to give you a very quick and easy way that you can move the needle, that you can move from whatever state you're in to something better in as little as 30 to 60 seconds. Would that be helpful? Type yes in the chat. Okay, so here's the deal though. If you're driving, don't do this. Seriously. This technique involves closing your eyes, it involves going into an altered state, and involves stimulating your nervous system in a very specific way. And you can't be doing that and doing something else at the same time. Okay, so if you're driving and you want to experience this, then pull off to the side of the road, find a parking lot somewhere, put the car in park, put the parking brake on, turn off the ignition. If it's not a million degrees outside, roll up your windows so you won't be disturbed, right? Don't do this while you're operating any form of equipment or machinery or anything that requires your full and undivided attention. Okay. Trust me, I want everybody to experience this. But the truth of the matter is that taking control of your life, taking control and becoming a master of influence requires you to start with the most important human being on the planet, and that's you. If you can't influence yourself, good luck trying to influence everybody else. But I want you to learn it, and I want you to be able to do it, but I want you to do it safely. So, with those parameters aside, if you're training with us from home, okay, shoo your pets out of the room. Unless you're watching me on the phone, turn the ringer off or put the do not disturb on. Why? Because this is also energy work, right? When you start doing this, your neurology is going to send out an electromagnetic pulse that animals can feel, and they like it, and they'll try to jump in your lap. People will come in, they'll feel something shift, and they'll just want to be around it. Okay, I'm not making this up. Okay, this is what happens, right? We call it the proprioceptive grid, and when you come to your trainings, we'll teach you that stuff. Okay, so first and foremost, so everybody stand up if you can. Make sure your room is sealed. You're not going to be disturbed. Close your eyes and take a moment and think of the 3 most pleasurable things you've ever experienced. I don't care what they were. I don't care who you were with. I don't care what the context, right? I don't care if you were at a stag party, a bachelorette party, if you're at your daughter's Holy Communion. I don't care if you were at a birthday party. I don't care I don't care if it was the most ecstatic meditation you ever had or the greatest romantic experience. I don't care. All I care about is that when you think about it, it's the most pleasurable, wonderful experience that pops into your mind. Okay? And go with the first thing that pops up, even though you don't think it might be the strongest one. Whatever pops up first is what your neurology believes is the most easily accessible. And that's all we care about right now. We want to do something quick. We want to do something easy that allows you to experience transformation and know that this is real and that you can do this. Okay? So I want you to close your eyes. Now, for some of you, you're going to draw a blank at first. It's okay. Just pretend you know what that is and what it might be like. Close your eyes. Remember that amazing, pleasurable experience. Whatever one pops up, just see what you were seeing in that moment. Hear what you were hearing in that moment. Smell and taste what you were smelling and tasting in that moment. And when you do that, when you see what you see and you hear what you hear and you smell and you taste what you smell and you taste, there is an amazing, wonderful, beautiful, pleasurable, fun feeling that you get. Feeling of absolute joy, pleasure, excitement, happiness, fun, whatever word you use to describe it. And I'd like you to step into that and stand the way you were standing in that moment. If you were standing, if you're not, sit the way you were sitting. I want you to breathe the way you were breathing in that moment. If you were in fact breathing, which I'm pretty sure you were, right? And notice as you do that, when you sit that way and you see what you see and you hear what you hear and you smell and you taste what you smell and you taste and you breathe in that special way, That feeling starts to grow inside of you. And I'd like you to notice, I'd like you to become aware that there's a place in your body where those amazing, wonderful feelings start, where they grow, where they spread from. Take a moment, notice where you feel that, point to it. As you point to it, look at it with your inner eyes and notice that there's a color, maybe even a series of colors connected to those amazing feelings. What color or colors would that be for you, first impression? Whatever it is, imagine a brilliant ball of that energy floating above your head. Notice how the feelings in your body shift and change as with every breath you take and every beat of your heart. That amazing ball of pleasure, fun, playfulness, whatever word you use to describe it, begins to grow, begins to expand, begins to fill the entire room from floor to ceiling, from wall to wall, and all points in between. Notice how it wraps itself around you like an amazing blanket, a cocoon, a shield, a suit of armor, insulating you, protecting you from all seriousness, all doubts, all downers, all bummers, real or imagined, while at the same time flooding your mind, flooding your body, flooding your spirit with everything it most wants, everything it most needs in an infinite, ever expanding, and unlimited supply. And when you know you've got that, breathe those amazing colors through your entire being. Let it fill you up like water fills up a bottle, like fluid fills up a test tube, like hot air or helium fills up a balloon. Anchor it in so fully, so completely. No force in the universe can turn it off or take it away, not even you. Take a moment to be fully complete in that feeling. And when you know it's locked in, impossible to turn off, impossible to take away, I want you to test it. Try to turn it off. Try to make it go away. Try to imagine somebody else trying to force you to make it, or trying to force it to go away, and notice what happens instead. Curious what you're noticing. You don't need to type it, just it's a rhetorical thing. Now, when you're satisfied, and only when you're satisfied, I want you to go ahead and stop testing. Allow your eyes to open. Notice how good you feel and type in the chat what just happened. Now, Mariana, if you never felt that, what's the closest thing you ever did feel? Or ask yourself the question, what might that be like? And just to clarify for you, Mariana, you don't have to feel true bliss or fulfillment, right? It can be any form of pleasure. It can be any form of fulfillment. It doesn't have to be the ultimate thing. It's the ultimate thing that you've experienced up to this point. Okay. Now, some people have trouble, sometimes have trouble accessing that. Then just pretend or ask yourself the question, well, what might that be like? And just imagine this, give yourself permission to play. This is about intentionally accessing your imagination to stimulate your body to create something for you that you can use. Okay. Rhino says, I feel heat all over my body. Yes. Yes, you will. Okay. It's not uncommon for people to break out in a sweat, to tingle, to do all kinds of yawn, laugh, cry, sneeze. Some people belch. Some people, some people get a little flatulent. Your body will, if when you're doing this, it's going to trigger a whole cascade of physiological, electrical, and chemical effects in you that move you into that state. And anything that's trying to keep you, that's not part of that state, your body is going to start to purge and release. So if you had any of those experiences while we were doing this exercise, this is one of the reasons why the longer you practice these techniques, the healthier you get. But we start with a practical application of this, which is using it to go out and influence the world from the right place. Okay, so does psychology support this? Oh, yes. Um, is this Qigong? Maybe. This is David's Qigong. This is David's top secret Qigong. This is stuff you won't find available to the general public. Francesca's saying, can you help take away the darkness remotely? View remote view. That's a different class for a different day, Francesca. But the answer is maybe. Mannequin Player says, definitely energized. Jeffrey Mart says, happy feeling my hair stood on end. Yes. Yes, because you could, when you do this, you actually become more conductive. It's actually one of the things that actually raise your voltage. Tammy says, I can breathe easier. Jose says, amazing. Agnes says, bliss. Was that worth the cost? Was that worth the whole webinar? Right? Yes, basically, right? Because you know what? Now that you know how this works, you can use it anytime you want for anything you want. And it doesn't have to be pleasure. It can be any emotion that you can imagine. On demand, instantly. All you got to do, change your posture, change your breathing, imagine the event that has the emotion you want, amplify it in your mind through your imagination, notice where the body feeling is, turn it into a color, breathe it into the room and breathe it through you. Your state will change in 60 seconds or less. Okay. Read the Body Keeps Divish. Read the Body Keeps the Score by Basil van der Kolk. You'll have all the somatic and emotional stuff that you need. Also read how the 7.5 Lessons About the Brain by Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, as well as How Emotions Are Made by the same author, Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett. Agnes says, I just realized I'm smiling. Well, isn't that a kick? That's where we start. Just doing that, ladies and gentlemen, just doing that will transform your results for the rest of the day. It will give you the right energy, the right reticular activating system. All the different things are going to line up for you so that you have a neurology that's now primed to look for opportunities so that state continues. Okay? Again, I can only give you the surface level understanding. If you want the full thing, it's all in Secrets of Human Influence. Okay, I'm not going to bullshit you, right? There's so much more to what I just gave you. There's so much more potential, so many ways you can apply it. But if we're not satisfying the reason you showed up here in the first place, none of that other stuff matters. On an influence perspective, just this exercise will raise your natural charisma. It'll raise the speed and the perceptual filters that you have so you become far more aware and able to respond better in real time. And it will cause whoever you interact with from this state to be more compliant and open to your instructions and suggestions. Is that useful? Is that helpful? You don't need to believe me. You don't need the citations. Just do it. Do it. Go out into the world and see how people treat you. Anytime you find yourself feeling down or bummed or whatever, stop, step back, change your posture, change your breathing. Remember something awesome. Relive it over and over in your mind. Generate the body feeling. Turn it into a color and do the process and notice the change. Okay. Do I take FAFSA? Unfortunately not, Francesca. I'm not approved for FAFSA. Of course, I never really applied either. Okay. That's where we start. That's where we start. And then we just keep getting more powerful. Each thing I'm going to share with you today multiplies what came before it. So if we take this, now we layer the echo technique onto it, which is where we're going next, right? And then we layer on emotional bonding, and then we layer on resistance removal. It's the most ethical, honest way to get everything you want, and it'll be a very rare occurrence when you don't get what you're going for. Okay, so let's talk about the echo technique briefly. I'll do a quick demo, and then what I'll do, if it's okay with you, is I'll go through the Secrets of Human Influence package that we've put together for you. I'll explain what each of the components are, what they do, why they're important, why we put those things together to create a complete system of transformation and influence for you. And then when that's done, I'm going to go ahead and pick up where we left off, and we'll go into the mechanics of the echo technique. And we'll go into emotional bonding if that's something you guys want to do, or if you guys want to focus on resistance removal, then that's what we'll do. Does that sound like a good plan? If that sounds good to you, just type "that's great, let's do it" in the chat. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do the demo first, but first I want to talk about all the reasons why the echo technique is important. and why it's the foundation of everything that we do. I'm going to go through this really, really quickly, just because I want to get to giving you access to the whole system, and then I'll elaborate and I'll answer any real deep questions that you have in part 3 after we do the presentation. So let me find my screen share. I love these new features on Zoom, by the way, where I can be in the picture at the same time. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, this is how I like to, let me make this bigger. This is how I like to talk about the echo technique. Remember this, the most powerful words any human being can hear at any given moment, the most powerful words any human being can hear at any given moment are the ones that just came out of their mouth. Now, a lot of people who've been trained in persuasion and influence before, or through the Dale Carnegie system, well, the most powerful words anyone can hear is their name. Yes and no. Their name will get their attention, but if you overuse it, it will annoy and irritate them. Okay? That doesn't seem to be the case in 99% of the people that use and experience the echo technique. Okay? So, the echo technique is by far the most neurologically friendly, most powerful way for one human being to communicate with another human being. Okay? The reason for that is the words that come out of a person's mouth are literally a key to lock fit to every single level of that person's internal experience, all their values, all their rules, all their meta programs, all their belief systems, all of their identities. Every single thing that makes up their map, or the way they experience the world, and what constitutes the most perfect anything, is stimulated and triggered by using their very own words in as close to the order and sequence as possible. Now, if you've been classically trained in neurolinguistic programming, you will say, well, I know that. Say, I know that I'm supposed to listen to their words, analyze whether they're using visual, auditory, kinesthetic words, and then I'm supposed to replace those words with words that match the category. So if someone says, I see, I can say view or peer, right? Or some people who maybe have been trained in like on suicide prevention lines or crisis hotlines, they'll say, well, we can do active listening where I can just replace the word, I can paraphrase what they said. I'm going to tell you right now, you do any of those things, you're going to start losing. You're going to get overwhelmed, and it's not going to work nearly as well as what I'm teaching you right now. That's a big if. I'm going to piss off a lot of classically trained neurolinguistic programmers, because not only were they taught to do what I just said, they were taught that you need to match their tonality, you need to match their volume, you need to match their tempo, the speed at which they're talking. You need to match all of those things at the same time. Well, most of us, we can't carry on 3 conversations at the same time, much less do all that kind of analysis. Here's the real gold. Here's the real secret. Here's how you hack everything. You only need to use their words. The exact words. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to mirror their tonality. You don't have to match their volume. You don't have to match the speed at which they speak. The only 2 things you need to do to get massive results, I mean massive, is use the exact words they use in as close to the order and sequence as they came out of their person's mouth. That's it. There's all kinds of other cool things you can do, little ways to hide it and mask it. And we teach you that in Secrets of Human Influence and Advanced Killer Influence. That's not what we need right now. Okay? When you do that, it is going to trigger massive attention in the other person. A person literally cannot ignore their own words. If you've ever been at a party, there's a lot of people, right? And it's noisy and there's music playing, right? And you're off in one corner and some people are off in the other corner, and somebody mentions your name, or they mention somebody who has the same name as you. All of a sudden, from across that noisy room, Something pings you and you turn and you look at where your name came from. Why is that? Because your nervous system evolved to be selfish. It evolved to be constantly monitoring the environment for anything relevant to itself. And so it literally can't not pay attention when whatever it's sending out is reflected back. It will literally force a person's neurology to pay attention to you. How many of you here, and I can't see you all because of the chat, how many of you here have ever been ignored? How many of you here have ever tried to hold a conversation or get people to really pay attention to what you're saying and they're just off in la la land drifting away, right? Or focusing on other things or checking their phone or doing whatever. Dr. Snyder, what signs in public women give you? That is a different class for a different day, but we do cover aspects of that in Secrets of Human Influence. So when you start echoing their words, they will stop playing with their phone. They will stop playing on the computer. They will focus on you, and the suggestibility window will open like a Grand Canyon. Okay. It eliminates the problem of making small talk, and it eliminates boring conversations. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. Mary, I'm going to give you guys an example. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. If the words are coming out of their mouth, they are totally engaged in everything that's going on back and forth between you. You will never have a boring conversation ever again, at least from the person that you're echoing's perspective. Okay? I'll give you a really quick story. Several years ago, I told you about Tina, right? The lady who was the city manager for the city of Poway, right? She came to my training because she was dating my AV guy, the guy running my audio and my video. His name was TJ. And TJ, when he first started training with me, he first started coming to my events, he was seeing this other lady. And he'd come to one of the very first trainings that he came to. He learned the echo technique. I was demonstrating the echo technique, using the echo technique. He was watching me do it on people who were challenging me that the echo technique wouldn't work. He's like, wow. I have stories. I have stories. In fact, you can go on my YouTube channel or in some of our products, and you will see people standing up in the audience challenging me that this echo technique doesn't work. And what you'll hear me do is echo their words right back to them, and they just keep talking and they never catch it. Everyone else around them is laughing their heads off because it's not their words, so it flags. But the person that you're targeting, they'll just keep going on. So what happened? TJ took this echo technique. He goes over to his girlfriend's house. He walks. He says, "Hey, how you doing? I was at this great seminar today. I learned this amazing technique, right? But before I tell you about it, I haven't seen you all day. So tell me about you. How was your day?" And so she starts talking about her day, and he's listening and he's paying attention, and every chance he gets, he echoes her words. About 15 minutes into the conversation, she looks at him with that weird look, goes, "So, like, when are you going to tell me about this technique that you learned?" And he's like having a ball. He's like, "Really?" And in his head, right? He goes, "Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Just, I'm really excited. I'm really interested in what's going on with you. Tell me about your day." And so she goes on for another 15 minutes, and every chance he gets, he's echoing her words, right? He's echoing her words. Another 15 minutes goes by. He goes, "Well, so when are you going to tell me about this technique?" And once again, says, "I'll get to it. You were in the middle of something. What were you saying?" Boom, 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 boom. She goes on for another 15 minutes. After about 45 minutes into this conversation, he can't take it anymore. He bursts out laughing. She's like, "What? What the what?" And he goes, "Okay, you remember that technique that I told you about?" She goes, "Yeah, when are you going to tell me about it?" He goes, "I've been using it on you for the last 45 minutes. And she argued with him for another 45 minutes about whether he was using the technique or not. And then she goes, "You have not been using that technique on me. It's not that I have not been using that technique on you. It's that I've been using that technique on you." Well, and they would go back and forth. She was literally arguing. And eventually she goes, "Wow, you really been the whole time?" "Yeah, I've been really doing it the whole time." And then he looks at her and he goes, "So Let me ask you something, right? Now that you've experienced that, how do you feel about the conversation that we just had? And she stopped and she goes, you know, honestly, I think that's probably one of the best conversations we've ever had. 80 to 90% of what came out of TJ's mouth came out of her mouth. I could tell you, maybe I don't have time today because I promised you I'd do the demo for you. I went to the Israel one time. That was a tough audience, right? And I'll tell you that story another time. Or maybe on part three, I'll teach it to you. So it's going to eliminate small talk. It's very, very difficult to catch. And even when you catch it, all you have to do is say, look, I'm doing what I'm doing because I learned in my communications class that this is the most um, open, honest, and ethical way to communicate and understand another person. And I just want to be able to understand and communicate with you better. Is that okay? Now, what normally socialized person is going to say, no, I don't want you to communicate better and understand me better, right? If they say no to that, if they say no to that, you got other stuff going on. Sheila says, what if they hardly speak? Whatever they say is good enough. You just ask more questions, right? Mirror their gestures and other body language. Okay. So it primes your, now what you'll notice, and people, veterans especially, people who've used this, when you use the echo technique with another human being, it primes them to want to keep talking. It will make them start to share things that they didn't want to share or they never intended to share. They'll just start running off at the mouth. Your problem won't be getting them to speak, honey. It'll be getting them to shut up, right? Don't believe me. Veterans, people who've used the echo technique, what happened when you use this echo technique on people? Just type it in the chat. I'll keep talking. I'll keep teaching, right? Okay. The last and probably and last two things that I want to share with you and why this is where we start. We control your state and we use the echo technique. You got those two things. You got oh, it's almost not fair, except it is. It sends powerful signals of sameness to the listener. It will cause the person hearing their own words to identify with you. Identification is the most powerful overriding principle in all neurology. The moment a person identifies you, you signal sameness, the barriers to intimacy fall, connection begins, and the flow of information starts. The impulsion to connect and go deeper and become more intimate accelerates. And it doesn't really matter the application. I have personal injury attorneys who use this. I have therapists, doctors, and coaches who use this. I have romantic partners who use this. Okay. Okay. Mariana, if you're not understanding, go back and review these bullet points. It literally forces a person's neurology to pay attention. It eliminates the problem of making small talk. It primes the target to keep talking and give you more information about themselves at the same time. It sends powerful signals of sameness to the listener. And finally, it causes them to become progressively more connected and positively attracted to you. Okay. Don't be surprised when you start using this on waiters and bartenders and things like that. You don't start getting free stuff. Stuff gets taken off the bill or desserts show up that you didn't ask for. Don't believe me. Just use the technique. Okay. So I'm going to give you a quick demo and then I'm going to go into the full. Careful, it can drain you or give you energy. Yeah, well, again, the more a person pulls your attention, the more of their energy they're going to pull. So you have to manage that. But that's not what this course is about. This course is about influence. It's about giving you the force multipliers and the master keys to move and swing your interactions with human beings in your direction in a win-win ethical way. Energy management, we talk about in our state control training in Secrets of Human Influence. Right? All the questions you're asking are answered in the course. Okay. What if they think you're mocking them? If they think you're mocking them, it's because you're trying too hard, okay? And you're viewing what you're doing as a technique or a trick, okay? Most of the time when people get flagged, it's because they're trying to be too much like the person speaking. And because you're doing something that's not congruent, it flags you, right? But here's my challenge to you. I want you to go out and echo 30 people or 50 people this week. I want you to try to get caught. Yes, you heard me right. I want you to try to get caught. So if they were doing a trick on you, they will spot it. Not necessarily. In fact, narcissists are probably the biggest suckers for this because everything they do is about them anyway, right? And so unless they're trained by me, 90, again, don't believe me. I'm not asking you to take my word for it. Take the technique after I demo it for you and go out and just use it. Find as many opportunities to use a person's very own words as you can and prove to yourself what happens. Okay. Again, I know I keep saying trust me and believe me, but you don't have to believe me. It's not necessary. We've taken a great deal of time, energy, and effort to distill the systems that we teach into mechanical steps that you follow. And if you apply the formulas the way that we teach them to you, effort, energy just flows out of you, influence just flows out of you, and it flows back to you more than it went out. Because people love you. They like you. They want to be around you. They want to give you their attention. So, yes, there's a little expenditure of energy, but if you're doing it right, it comes back and it comes back big. Okay. But you don't need to believe me for this to work for you. You just need to want it. Okay. So, way back in the day when I had my martial arts school in Coral Springs, Florida, this is how I would commonly answer the phone. So, I'm going to play both roles. I'm going to be David, the black belt sensei grandmaster, and I'm going to play Bernice, who is my client. So, it goes something like this. Ring, ring. Good afternoon, Coral Springs Martial Arts Academy. This is David. How can I help you? Oh, hey, David. My name is Bernice, and I saw your sign, and I'm interested in maybe getting karate lessons for my 10-year-old son, Josh. Can you help me? Oh, hey, Bernice. So great to hear from you. So you saw our sign, and you were interested in uh, getting karate lessons for your 10-year-old son, Josh, and you're wondering if I could help you. Is that right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. How do you know? Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, just so I understand you better, why don't you tell me a little bit about Josh and why you want karate lessons for him? Well, David, here's the thing, right? So my son Josh, he's 10 years old and he's super, super smart. In fact, he's so smart that he's actually his teachers are moving him up a grade in school. And Josh is not the biggest kid in his class already. And he's going to be surrounded by all these older kids. And I was a little concerned. I was afraid that, that because he's smaller, the bigger kids might pick on him, that he might be a little insecure, and that might affect his focus and his ability to really apply himself to his studies. And I'd heard that martial arts was a really good way for people to develop focus and confidence and to protect themselves and defend themselves against bullying and things like that. Is that true? Can martial arts help us that way? Oh, I see, Bernice. So what you're saying is Josh is really smart, but he's a little small for his age. And he's so smart, in fact, that his teachers decided to move him up a grade. And because Josh is moving up a grade, you're afraid that the bigger kids might pick on him, right? And you'd heard that martial arts was a great way for small kids like Josh to, become more confident, more focused, because you're worried that being worried about all those things might drive his focus away. Am I on the right track there? Does that sound like what you're looking for? Yeah, David, that sounds exactly like what I'm looking for. Can you help me? Absolutely. You found the right place. This is exactly what you're looking for. You see, Bernice, for centuries, the martial arts has been a method for small people, young people, smart people like Josh to learn to develop focus and confidence to be able to move through the world in a very powerful and very confident way and to protect themselves against being bullied by bigger and larger kids. So as Josh goes through the training, he'll begin to develop that focus, that confidence that allows him to go into those classes and really gain an advantage, not just in his ability to focus and pay attention, but the way he moves through the world will cause him to exude a confidence and a certainty that most bullies will move away from. And if some bully decides to test him, he'll have the skills and the abilities to truly protect himself in the way that the martial arts teaches us to do that. So I'm curious, just so I understand you better, if Josh could have the focus and the confidence and the ability to protect himself from bullies and things like that. If he could do that, what's important to you about those things? Oh my God, David. If that were true, then it would give me such peace of mind. It would allow me to really know that Josh is in good hands. He's going to do well. He's going to just make become the best version of himself. And I would really feel good about that whole process. Bernice, fantastic. As you go through the process, as Josh goes through the training, you're going to experience the peace of mind that comes from knowing that your son is gaining the focus, the confidence, and the ability to protect himself from those bullies that you've always wanted. You'll know that he's in the best place possible, that he's on the fast track to becoming the very best version of himself. Now, I'm just curious, just so I understand you better, how soon might you want to get started? Well, David, what are my options? Well, here are your options, Bernice. Your options are A, we have a special program that we're running. And what it comes is two private lessons and one group class, comes with a free uniform. And it's 1997 to come in and try it and take the two lessons plus the group class. And a lot of people like that because it gives the student a chance to really do a one-on-one and really be focused and gain the confidence of how to behave in a group class. So when they go into that class, they can pay attention, they know how things work, and they already have a foundation of focus and they can feel more confident in their abilities, right? So that's one option. The other option is two group classes and one private class. And a lot of people who are fast starters or who just like to be involved in group activities, they really like that option because it gets them into the group dynamic faster. I'm going to recommend, because Josh is about focus and confidence, that we go with the first option, which is the two private lessons and the group class. But you tell me which one works better for you. Well, David, I think you're right. I think Josh would really get a lot more benefit out of the two private classes, and so he would go in and he'd have a pretty good idea of what's happening. He'd have a foundation, and he could really focus and pay attention in the group class. Excellent, Bernice. So here's what we need to do. I have availability tomorrow at 5:45 p.m. Or if it's not too late, I have a slot open tonight at 7 p.m. Which would be easier for you? Uh, Let me see. I think tomorrow would be better, honestly, because he's Josh is still doing his homework, and I would like him to be able to be able to truly focus and not rush around. So I think tomorrow at 5:45 might be better. Okay, so you think tomorrow at 5:45 might be better? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take some information from you, and we'll see you and Josh tomorrow at 5:45. You know where to find us? Oh yeah, yes, David, I do. I have the address and everything. Excellent. Can you repeat it back to me, just so I know that you're coming to the right place? Click. All right. That's what the echo technique looks and sounds like. And what I did for those of you who have been around for a while, I actually added the emotional bonding process into that conversation. And I'll point out where that was. What did you notice? What did you think? What did you experience? Right? Mary says it's pretty seamless. Yeah, I've been doing this a lot, right? Does it have to be that seamless for it to work? Not in the least. Tammy says, I want to come to your class. Well, then do so. People are actually been after me to start teaching martial arts again, and I'm actually toying with the idea of doing it, right? But this is exactly how I did. Yeah, please do. All right. Um, this is exactly what I did for many years when I ran my martial arts school in Coral Springs, Florida, back in the 90s. Right? It's fast. It's easy. Did I lie or misrepresent anything in any way? Well, that's just it, Sheila. Sheila says you seem to be caring, which is rare. They'll be loving you. Yes. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. This isn't about selling, although it can certainly be used in that application. It's about relationships. It's about creating powerful, deep, connected, unbreakable relationships with people super, super fast. And if you think about it, that's also the reason why having a strong ethical orientation is really important. Okay. The energy that this thing generates, especially if you combine it with the state control work we did first, is off the charts. Okay. And you can do it too. It's actually easy. That's the problem. Sometimes people have a hard time with it because it's so easy. They overthink it, right? But it'll work. Okay. So that being said, I told you I would share with you exactly what the echo technique looks like. And then I asked you guys if I could have your permission to share with you tell you about the whole Secrets of Human Influence program that we put together. Is that still good? Are we still good with that? This means yes. This means no. Our STR record would say yes or yes. All right, perfect. So with your permission, I'm going to go ahead and jump into my file share here. With your permission, I'd like to tell you about one of our most powerful influence programs packages on the planet. It's specific. Now, the program that we're going to share with you and talk to you about, a lot of you have seen it. A lot of you, this is your brand new, your very first introduction to the program. This entire program is designed for home study. It's designed for you to watch the videos, do the drills, get the skills, and interact with people. Okay. The fastest way to learn none of it is to try to learn all of it. So here's the secret. Before I even give you access to this program, I'm going to teach you some very important things. I want you, as you go through the content in your course, to cherry pick what you learn. I want you to pick the things that have the highest coolness factor, the things that are the most fun for you, the things that are the simplest and the easiest, and I want you to overdo them. I want you to over practice them. Here's why. Most people who buy courses never get out of the screen. Is the screen black, guys? Jen says the screen is black. Okay. I think Jan, it might be just lag or something. One of the reasons that people never get out of the gate with this is because they try to do everything. Now, this webinar is designed to show you that just a few well-placed pieces can have exponential effects. So here's how we do it. We take the Bruce Lee approach. Bruce Lee would say, absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, add that which is uniquely your own. So here's what we want you to do. As you go through your Secrets of Human Influence course, cherry pick the things that are fun, that come easy, and are directly applicable to your life, and overdo them. When you internalize that, you're getting the results you want with that. Circle back, grab another piece of the course, and apply that. Right? If you have questions about what we're about to show you, call Mia, call out, reach out to Moss. We will guide you step by step through each and every sticking point that you have. You have our complete support in this program because we want you to do this. We want you to be successful. We want you to be as a part of our community in whatever way you find comfortable for as long as humanly possible. So, that being said, let's talk about the Secrets of Human Influence Ultra Hypnotic Persuasion Mastery Home Study Program. This program is about moving the needle of your life in exactly the way you want. For some of you, that'll be making more money or closing more sales. For some of you, it'll be getting more dates. For some of you who are being ignored or overlooked or just denied the things you want in life, it'll be about hearing yeses more often. For those of you who are what we call human angels, who have a deep, compassionate nature, it'll be about helping more people to give the transformations that they come to you for, to move and resolve the problems that they don't even know they have sometimes, or help them overcome limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, whatever. I have many, many medical doctors, psychotherapists, social workers, as well as success coaches all over the world who are using these skills every single day. I have multimillionaire entrepreneurs, like people so smart, I can barely have a conversation with them, using these skills to win the games of life at the highest levels. And it can do the same thing for you. Okay. It's about moving through the world, not just being more confident, but being truly fearless and comfortable and in control in any situation or circumstance. Ultimately, it's about becoming a more powerful, capable version of yourself in your life, in the way you define power, in the way that allows you to become the kind of person that is writing their own ticket in this life, that can deal with any situation or circumstance, that allows you to win. Become the master of the game of life and make the game play by your rules. And I like that a lot. Because if you have these skills, if you what you see what I call the matrix inside of the matrix, right? You see the world as a big video game, and you have the cheat codes, right? You have the ethical, honest cheat codes, but cheat codes nonetheless. Ultimately, as a byproduct of this training, of doing these things, you're going to become more charming. Your charisma is going to go off the charts, and you're going to become absolutely unstoppable and irresistible as a byproduct of the process of applying these skills. Okay. I am so in love with these skills. It's stupid sometimes because I see people changing all the time, and just applying one or two things here and there changes the complete direction of their life. And I want to do that for you. I want you to have that skill. Okay. And that's what, so I'm going to use every tool I have to help you change. Okay? So here's what the offer I put together for you. It's good until July 10th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Then these skills go back, these tools, these techniques, these courses that we've combined together, they go back to their original prices. So please, 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 if you decide you want this, when you decide you want this, right? And if you call for information, we're going to have the phone lines open very shortly. Remember to leave your full contact information. That includes your name, the time you called, what your question is, and your phone number. Because if you do that, then you'll qualify to receive these bonuses in this special package. If you call and you don't leave any information, you try to call back tomorrow, well, you won't qualify for anything because you're late. So please, if you call and you get the voicemail or whatever, because the phone lines are flooded, by all means, just leave your contact information and you'll qualify for all the bonuses I'm about to talk about, and maybe some that I'm not going to talk about really quick. Okay. Okay. So where are we going to start? We're going to start the Secrets of Human Influence package with the original Killer Influence program, 17 videos, 7-stage universal persuasion protocol. And that's where we start. Now, before I go any further, in case you didn't know, Killer Influence was named the #1 NLP training course in the world 4 years in a row. Every version of Killer Influence that we've put out since like 2020 has been named the #1 NLP training program in the world. So I'm very proud of this, and this is where we start. The most powerful, effective, easy to use influence system on the planet is where we start for you. It's going to teach you how to think like a master influencer. It's going to teach you how to control your psycho-emotional state so nobody else can push your buttons ever again. And you can take that energy and create powerful rapport with any human nervous system that you encounter, even groups of people. We'll show you how to influence groups. We'll show you how to speed read groups so you can look at a group of people, instantly identify who the leader is, who the alpha is, bond with them, and expand and piggyback their influence onto the entire group. My personal injury attorneys use this all the time, right? If you're out in the clubs scenes or whatever, and you want to get in rapport with a group, we'll show you how to do all that. Okay, we'll teach you how to sync and vibe and do all these crazy things. You'll be able to connect with anyone, anytime, anywhere, under any circumstance, for any reason. If you like the little state control drill we started at the beginning of the webinar, you are going to love this segment. We devote a whole day to this stuff, and we have you test in ways you can't possibly imagine. If you've ever seen my video, Empathic Superpowers, that's part of the state control training. That's one of the ways that we test the state control to make sure we're affecting people on a deep neurological level. Right? We're going to teach you the most powerful, irresistible hypnotic language patterns ever. These patterns are so powerful, so pervasive, you can't even think without using them. So the moment your body hears them, your brain responds in a very predictable, engineerable way. You'll be able to make anything you want, cause anything you want in the minds of the subject, even if those things have absolutely nothing in common. You'll be able to make anything you want mean anything you want in the minds of your subject or your listener, even if those things have nothing in common with each other.
You'll be able to direct a person's internal and external focus of attention, to automate programs and install programs in their subconscious mind that have them perceiving the world the exact way you want them to. And that particular approach is so powerful. Even when they know you're doing it, they can't stop it. Okay. It's going to allow you to make a person's internal movies and mental imagery exactly what you want it to be, so that uh, they experience their internal movies exactly the way you want. And their suggestibility and absorption and focus on you just grows exponentially, right? It's an extraordinarily powerful set of tools. And you don't even need to use them. Some of them you can't not use, but most people don't realize the true potential of what they're doing naturally. So we're going to show you, we're going to pull back the curtain and teach you all of the things that these patterns are capable of, why you should use them, how you should use them, and when you shouldn't use them, if that makes any kind of sense, right? But because the side effect of that is that you'll become much more aware when other people are trying to use them on you. See, if you can't do the patterns, you can't perceive the patterns. And so part of your self-defense training, part of your defense against the dark arts training, is learning how to become sensitive to these patterns. The fastest way to do that is to learn how to use them. And then you have the tool on both sides. We're going to teach you how to manage the emotional states of other people. You saw me do that with Bernice. Just by using her words, just by tapping into her values, I moved her from a place of curiosity to a place of desire and volition, and a willingness to take affirmative action and actually act on the things she said she was curious about, right? I moved her very, very fluidly through that, just using two simple techniques. Imagine what you can do with all seven stages. Okay. I'm going to teach you how to literally hijack a person's internal behavior code. You see, when people decide to engage in a behavior, different parts of their brain line up in specific sequences. And if you know what to look for and you know what to listen for, you can activate a specific type of behavior, link it to what you want them to do, and they'll just do it. Right. But again, it needs a little bit of training. It doesn't take as much as a classic NLP class would give you, because most of the time what they're teaching you isn't really useful, or the way they're teaching it to you doesn't allow you to use it out in the real world where you really need it. Okay. We throw all that out the window. We only focus on things that are fun, easy, fast, and are proven. And that's what this particular approach to that will do for you. We're going to teach you how to emotionally bond anyone's deepest desires to get them to do what you want them to do by their own choice, over and over and over again. And what's the best part of this is they'll actually be thanking you for the opportunity to do it. They will love you because you gave them the exact thing they most deeply desired. Remember the beginning of the webinar? What is it you most desire, right? You're going to be able to do that. Okay. That's what the core killer influence training is going to do. And then it gets even deeper. It goes into how to use the objects in your environment, where you sit in relation or stand in relation to another human being, how to speed read and profile a person so you can create a quick behavioral profile so you can use these tools even more effectively. Okay. And so much more. There's so much more in this program. Right. It really it's literally stood the test of time, and I can't even begin to tell you all the things that this course is responsible for. I'd be here all day. We're going to throw the full Killer Influence Mind Control Manual in with you. It's a $418 value. And you're going to get access, we're going to talk about this later, to a full community of people just like you who want to move the needle in their life, who want to move things forward. Okay. So the total combined retail on this is $2,497. Now, obviously, this is a webinar. There's a special promotion. So if you grab your course today, we're going to do something really cool. If you grab your course today, we're going to include some very special bonuses. These bonuses are designed to take that core killer influence training and allow you to expand the field and the scope of your influence to different contexts, different environments, special environments. It's going to teach you other ways to utilize the core CPI system, which is the 7-stage universal persuasion protocol, in the context of storytelling, in the context of speaking from the stage, in the context of overcoming objections and limiting beliefs. It's going to give you the ability to multiply your effectiveness 1,000-fold, right? And again, I don't need you to believe me when I say things like 1,000-fold. What I need you to do is test me. I need you to take these skills, apply them, and see if I'm actually under teaching you about what these things can actually do. Okay. And as a byproduct of that, you're going to become the better version of yourself. You can't not change internally in a good way using these skills. Okay. So, first bonus I want to teach you about is called weapons of mass instruction. Ladies and gentlemen, the most powerful influence tool on the planet cross around the world. Yes, the echo technique is super powerful. But even without the echo technique, this particular subject, this particular topic has resulted in more wars being ended, more wars being started, more changes in culture and belief than any other form of influence. And of course, what I'm talking about is storytelling, the art and power, the art and science of neuroscience and narrative. Narrative persuasion is by far the most effective way to influence massive groups of people, even through a language barrier. There is not a single culture on the planet that does not tell stories. Most of your genetic memory, or most of your the instincts and drives that you have that went on to become instinctive drives and things of that nature, were actually installed in you through hundreds and hundreds of years of storytelling. Storytelling is the most powerful way to influence people directly and indirectly. Now, when I decided to go deep into the art and science of storytelling, I realized a really disappointing truth. After going through like 5 or 6 different courses, reading about 7 or 8 different books on story work, I realized something, that each and every one of those systems had a tiny little piece of the overall puzzle, but no one had a very linear, understandable way to really put these principles together in a useful way that was easy. And I realized that if I wanted to attend a course on storytelling, I would have to make it. And that's what this is. This is a very powerful program. It's going to teach you about the 5 different categories of story: stories for connecting, anytime, anywhere, under any circumstance. It's going to teach you stories for persuading. In other words, stories that motivate, inspire, leadership stories, things of that nature. It's going to teach you the 7 subtypes of stories that you must tell if you're in the business world. So stories like "This is why I'm here," or "This is a value and action story." Right? There's within the context of leadership stories. The 2 other types of story work that this particular course covers, that I don't see covered very well, if at all, anywhere, is what we call omega stories. Omega stories are stories that have the ability to not be persuasive because they are very pushy, or they get you thinking about all the things you could get. They're stories that remove resistance to persuasion. So if you think of an alpha story, which is a story that is for selling or for leadership, is an alpha story. If I have this big old file cabinet that's full of rocks or heavy files, I get behind it and I try to push it, right? Well, why can't I? It's going to take me a lot of energy to move that filing cabinet. Why? Because of the friction, because of the resistance between the bottom of the filing cabinet and the floor itself. But if I take that filing cabinet and I put it on wheels, or I spread oil on the floor directly in front of the filing cabinet, every place that oil touches, it's going to reduce the friction. And so instead of needing 6 guys to move a filing cabinet, I could just move it myself, because the friction and the resistance is gone. We're going to teach you the specific structure and the neuroscience behind stories that are designed to remove resistance. So if you've got difficult clients, if you've got people who are constantly coming up with objections, storytelling is one of the most powerful ways to influence people. And here's why. One of the other reasons why. Storytelling is never ever perceived as an influence tool. It influences people and it changes their minds in the background. We cover all this in the course, but there's a reason why all the great motivational speakers, all the great CEOs, they literally have a division called corporate storyteller, right? Because they understand this massive treasure trove of influence skills if you understand how to create stories that activate and stimulate the nervous system. There's a whole, all the neuroscience is in there. This is one of the most powerful global influence tools I can teach you. And we teach it to you in the context of how to do marketing, how to do therapy work, how to do this from the stage to get people inspired and wired. So whether you're delivering service and product, it's going to teach you how to resolve the resistance that they don't even know they have in many cases. The other part is that stories are the best delivery mechanism for other embedded persuasion techniques. So there's a whole module in this course we call Ninja Stories. And this is once again where we take the structure of a story and we embed all kinds of primes, embedded languaging, the seven plus or minus two most powerful language patterns that exist, semantic priming, behavioral priming, all these different little smart bombs, for lack of a better word, that go into this big container. And then when you deploy the story, all of those things go into the nervous system and they unpack. That's the whole program. Okay. It's amazing. It's powerful. It's also got a bit of a learning curve, which is why you need the UPP, which is the first thing we talked about. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give this to you 100% free. Combine that with what we just talked about, you're looking at $4,494 in value if you could buy these things individually. But we're not done. Click the link when it becomes available for you today. We're also going to include Renegade Reframing. And this to me is one of the most immediately applicable, most powerful, fun to use programs I've ever created. It's based on a set of patterns in neurolinguistic programming discovered by Robert Dilts called sleight of mouth. We call it Renegade Reframing because it teaches you how to change any belief or overcome any objection or win any argument in seconds, right? Think about this for a moment. What if for every time somebody told you no, every time somebody gave you a reason for not doing the thing you wanted them to do, you had at least 14 different ways to change that belief, change that objection, and dissolve it and resolve it in seconds. And that's before you started combining and stacking. What if you applied this to your own limiting beliefs? What if for every limiting belief you had about why life sucks, why you don't deserve things, why it's not safe to be different, all those other things that are limiting you and holding you back, or you're letting hold you back? What if you had 14 different ways to change those so fast, so powerfully, you can't go back to the old way of thinking? That's what this program does. It literally bulletproofs your ability to persuade and influence, to win any argument, to overcome any limiting belief, and change it in seconds. Okay? Super, super powerful, whether you're doing marketing, therapy, coaching, negotiation, mediation, voir dire, presentation, doesn't matter. These things work anytime, anywhere, under any circumstance, and they're super, super easy. We even turned it into a game. We gamified it, so you actually have something called the reframe game here, where you print out these cards, you cut them up, and then you can practice. Someone throws out an argument, a limiting belief, an objection. You throw down a reframe card, and the person that you throw down the reframe card to has to use that reframe to overcome what you just said. And if they do it successfully, they get a prize, or they get points, or you make them drink, or whatever. And you just go back and forth, and it's a lot of fun. And because it takes advantage of that playfulness mind state, you learn these patterns in a matter of minutes or hours instead of days and weeks, right? Again, sleight of mouth has been around in the NLP worlds for a long time, and it takes a stupid amount of time for most people to learn it. Why? They don't make a game out of it. They don't tap into the neuroplasticity of fun and pleasure and things of that nature. So this is a really, really powerful, exciting way for you to learn how to beat any objection, overcome any limiting belief, and win any argument in seconds in an easy, ethical way, right? And if you're one of those people who likes to tease people, this is a fun way to tease people in a loving way too. Total value on this is $1,997. We're going to give this to you absolutely free. Well, yes, I did know. I met Neil several times. We're going to give this to you free. Combined value on this is $6,491 when you register before the end of the webinar. The last piece that I want to share with you, and this is for any of you who do any form of presentation as part of your business, part of your career aspirations, any form of, like what we're doing here on a webinar, is public speaking, right? This is charisma and conversion. It's hypnotic presentation skills for presenters and public speakers. It takes what you learn in Killer Influence. It takes what you learn in Weapons of Mass Instruction. It takes what you learn in Renegade Reframing and combines that with what we call persuasion architecture, how to design powerful, compelling, small person or small group and large group talks that inspire, prime, and motivate people to raise their hand to work with you, to buy your product or service. Or if you're doing what we call, what my teacher, Lisa Sasevich, used to call service delivery, they're in your coaching program, you're teaching things. This is going to allow you to quickly and easily install this information in a very useful, powerful way for all of your students. It's going to allow you to add and layer hypnotic influence skills into your communications to motivate, inspire, lead, and teach people what they most need and want to know from you. And as a byproduct of that training, they're going to love you more. You're going to create your own little community, your own little tribe, and everybody is going to love you because of the way you use these skills. Okay? There's so much, we take a lot of time in this course to deconstruct what's going on behind the scenes with very famous A-list speakers like Tony Robbins or T. Harv Eker or Mark Victor Hansen or Lisa Sasevich, because there are certain layers that they sell, certain layers of understanding and systems that they'll sell to you. And then there's what they're really doing behind the scenes that inspire, motivate, and get people stampeding to the back of the room. If you've ever been in a seminar and on some magic command, half the room gets up and goes running back to the room to buy stuff, I'm going to show you how that really works and how you can start doing it too. But more importantly, or maybe even as importantly, how you can keep it from being done to you more consistently. And you can begin to really appreciate the skill and the power that these tools have to give. It's a big needle mover, especially if you're in your own business. Okay. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give this to you free. So if you did all the math, total combined value on this is $8,488. The short answer to your question, Devish, is yes. Here's what we got for you. You got the 17 video Secrets of Human Influence, Killer Influence, Mind Control Mastery Manual, and all the content that goes with it. $2,497. You're going to get the Weapons of Mass Instruction, $1,997 value. You're going to get Renegade Reframing, how to instantly overcome any objection or change any belief in seconds without them even knowing it, $1,997. And then the Charisma and Conversion is going to be the cherry on the sundae, so to speak, $1,997 value. Total combined value is $8,488. But obviously, I want to give you the best deal humanly possible. So here's what we got, right? If you grab your link, if you grab your Secrets of Human Influence course today, you're going to get all the support we have to give. And you're not going to have to pay $8,488. You're not even going to have to pay $4,244. But if I took that $4,244 and I cut it in half, would that be a good deal for all that value, over $13,000 and stuff? Would that be a good deal? I think so, right? But what if we went one further? What if we just decide to say, hey, if you're ready to move the needle, if you're ready for change, if you're tired of the results you've been getting and you want to level up, get the life of your dreams or something even better, you can get it all for $797. Are you worth $797? Are these skills, if you could close $1 billion deal tomorrow, would you do it? If you could, go to a meeting and get $10,000 more than you were asking for, would that be helpful? If you could meet somebody and have them dying to see you again, do you deserve that kind of transformation? Do you deserve that? Right? I can't answer that for you. I believe you do, right? But only you can really answer that, right? I'm here to help you as much as I can. So if you need help, one of the ways that we can do that is we can break this up into 3 easy installments of just $397. We're going to finance it for you, okay? All you got to do to get yours is go to www.killerinfluence.com/go. It's www.killerinfluence.com/go. Click the links in the chat. I don't know if Mia or we put this in the chat for our YouTubers. Oops. Okay, me and beat me to it. And I should just let my assistants do the assisting part. Oops. Did I? Okay. So click this link, grab your course, and we will get you on the fast track to getting everything you want. Mia says, "We got you, David." All right. So click the link. I'm going to give you guys about an 8-minute break to go ahead, click the link, email with any questions that you have. Well, actually, I got more to talk about, so we'll give you the break in a minute. So just click the link in your chats to register for your place. And for those of you who might be on the fence, there's absolutely nothing at risk here for you. Okay. Uh, Click your link, access your course, find the things you love, and start applying them right away. If after 60 days you're not on the fast track to more money, to more yeses in your life, more deals, if that's the what you want to call it. If you're not on the fast track to financial freedom or feeling more secure, confident, and powerful, if people aren't giving you the attention and the respect and the desire and the obedience that I'm talking about, if you're not experiencing more love and romance and fun and excitement and empowerment, I will refund every penny. I want you to be 1,000% guaranteed, happy with this program. If you're not, give us a chance to make it right. If we can't make it right, we'll give you every dime back. You have absolutely no risk, but everything to gain. So, to use some of my previous training, when would now be a good time to click that link? When would now be a good time to go for everything you want? When would now be a good time to be the next best version of yourself? Stop getting the old results and start getting the new results. I mean, think about it. As one of my more loved mega program students would say, what's the best that could happen? Right? Try it. 60 days. If you're not happy, we'll give you your money back. You can try something else that does work. But what's the best that could happen? Think about it. Click that link. Now, this is all good. This is good. The offer is available for you until July 10th, 2025. For those of you who all know me, you know I always like to reward people who take action. One of the things I learned a long, long time ago is the world goes to the people who take action. The world belongs to the people who are proactive. I also learned when I was studying behavior that the behavior that gets rewarded gets repeated. Behavior that gets repeated gets reinforced. And that's what I'd like to do for you right now. I'd like to reward you for making a choice to be better, to do something different, to get better results. So, for those of you who click that link right now, I'm going to throw in some awesome extra bonuses that are going to completely transform everything in that course. And as good as that course is, it's going to take you even further faster, right? So we're going to start with these fast action bonuses. Now, before I go any further, let me just say that fast action bonuses are exactly that. These fast action bonuses are only good while I'm live on the webinar today. As long as I'm alive on the webinar, you qualify for these courses. When I log off the webinar for tonight, these bonuses go away. You no longer qualify for the bonuses. So please, 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 if you know this is for you, if you've liked any two things I've talked about so far, click your link, get your course, and grab these bonuses while the fast action bonuses are available. Okay. The first fast action bonus we're going to give you is probably, in my opinion, the most important one. Why is that? Because one thing that home study doesn't give you as much as we would like is people to work with, feedback from other students and other practitioners who are more advanced than you, telling you how to tweak things, giving you feedback, role playing things with you, supporting you, giving you the ability to talk about these things without people looking at you like you're some kind of freak, right? This is the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Practice Group. And the reason I'm proud of this is because this particular practice group has been running nonstop for over 11 years. Technically, we're going on 13 or 14 years. We started in October of 2010, and we've been meeting every single month, month after month, since October of 2010. And during that program, I literally go around the room and I say, Mia, what do you want to learn? Moss, what do you want to learn? Seth, what do you want to learn? Um, Devish, what do you want to learn? Mike, Archangel, what do you want to learn? Right? Francesca, what do you want to learn? Mariana, what do you want to learn? Ross and Jeffrey, what do you want to learn? Right? Mannequin, what do you want to learn? Astro, what do you want to learn? Right? And I literally write down what you tell me on the screen. And then I step back and I look where all the threads kind of meet. If that makes any kind of sense. Right? And I create a lesson plan for you right on the spot. Now, so Kevin, what do you want to learn? Jose, what do you want to learn? Lalo, what do you want to learn? Liz, what do you want to learn? Right? Jagdeep, what do you want to learn? You haven't seen you in forever, brother. Elizabeth, what do you want to learn? And I'll create that lesson plan. And for the next 4 to 6 hours, sometimes longer, I will drill you on those skills until you can do them in your sleep. Okay. The end of that 4 to 6 hour training session, you are set loose into the world to go and apply your skills. Next month, you come back, I'm going to ask again, what do you want to learn? 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 I'm going to create that lesson plan on the spot, and we're going to drill and skill for 4 to 6 hours. Now, the best part about the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, aside from the people, which I think are the best ones I've ever met on the planet, is that we videotaped every single training session. And we've archived those on the NLP Power website, on our new Kajabi platform, on our YouTube members only channel, on our elite members, Facebook membership group. And as a member of the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, you get full, complete, unfettered access to the entire 11 plus year archive. Content that's never been seen on YouTube, never been featured as a product, never been seen outside of the elite group of mastermind people that we have. Okay. And you can binge watch them to your heart's content for as long as you're a member in good standing. The end of 3 months, end of 90 days, you get to choose. You want to extend your membership? We'll show you how to do that. You got what you needed. We bid you good luck and hope to see you again. You won't get a certificate from the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. What you will get, though, is something far more valuable: the ability to actually use it, the ability to actually perform anytime, anywhere, under any circumstance, for any reason. Right? That's what I call making the second payment. Most people, when they look at programs like this, they're focused on the tuition, right? The $797 or the $397, whatever program you choose, right? They're focused on the money, but that only does one thing for you. It gives you the access to the information, which is huge because most people never get that. But through the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, you make the second payment, which takes you from access to the information to ownership of the information. And that payment is not one you can make in money. You can always make more money. In fact, you'll make lots of money using Killer Influence. What it gives you is the ability, the investment of time, energy, and effort to take the skills from out here and put them in here. So they come out here and here and here, so that you own these skills. And once you make that leap, you have a superpower, a set of superpowers that will always serve you whenever you decide to use them. It's something that can never be taken away, and it works. And you can trust it and you can rely on it. Right? And that's why I call it the second payment. Right? And that's the most important one. And that's what this program gives you. Right? This gives you the ability to own and embody those things. It's a $1,597 value. But if you stop for a moment and you really think about what you're going to become as a byproduct of this training, you'll realize what an immense value it truly is. Right? And we're going to give this to you absolutely free. Why? Because we want you to win. Right? We want you to succeed. Right? You do me no good not succeeding. Right? The reason I'm named the #1 NLP trainer of the year over and over again, or #2 NLP trainer of the year, or why our products are always ranked so highly, is because the people who use them win. One of the ways that we make sure you win is through this program. I encourage you to make use of it. Okay. Total combined value on this is $10,085, but we're not done yet. For those of you who want to get started, right, I'm going to include one of my favorite bonuses. This is what we call the Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course. Now, just like SHIELD was an excuse to come up with a cool acronym, I had to come up with a cool acronym for Stealth. So Stealth actually stands for Strategic Suggestion Through Emotionally Amplified Linguistically Transmitted Hypnosis. Instant Conversational Hypnosis. This course is designed specifically for the impatient people out there, the people who don't want to slog through 30, 60, 90, 120 hours of hypnotic stuff. They want something that they can watch right now and go out and do it right now. That's what Stealth was designed to do. Stealth was designed to close the gap between integration and assimilation and education. It was designed specifically to teach you exactly what you needed to know to get out into the field and start hypnotizing people fast. It includes the intense training on the 7 most powerful hypnotic language patterns that exist. It includes intense training on instant and rapid inductions, hypnotic hot buttons, which is emotional bonding on steroids. I believe this also includes 5 videos of me teaching these skills in a private session in somebody's home. It has, I believe it also has a lie detection video, and what am I forgetting? I think there's one other video course in there that's included. But not only does you get all the videos, you're also going to get MP3s. You're going to get transcripts. You're going to get manuals and workbooks. Everything you need to assimilate this information in this fastest, deepest amount of time possible. You can literally watch 2 hours of video and be out hypnotizing people in the real world in real time that day. It's a $997 value. We're going to give this to you free. Why? Because we want you to get out in the field. No, Jagdeep, Stealth is not the same as Stealth CPI. Stealth CPI is the full deep level training. Stealth is the quick start program. Okay. So again, and that's exactly what this is designed to. That's why we call it the Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course. It's designed to get you out in the field, proving these techniques to yourself in the shortest amount of time possible. Okay. Total value is $11,082, but we're not done. Let me ask you a quick question. Have any of you ever had any of the following experiences? Any of you ever walked away from a conversation feeling emotionally exhausted or drained? If that's true for you, type "that's me" in the chat. If you've ever found yourself agreeing to something you didn't actually want without knowing why, type "that's me" in the chat. If you've ever found yourself defending somebody else's toxic behavior, type "that's me" in the chat. If you felt someone was way too charming only to later realize you were being manipulated. If you've ever dated someone who made you feel like you were always the problem. If you've ever felt cornered in a sales call or a pitch but couldn't say no. Left a negotiation feeling like you gave too much away. If you've ever felt emotionally spun up or confused after meeting someone or having a confrontation. Sensed you were being emotionally managed even by someone you trusted. Felt dependent on a coach, teacher, or mentor. Watch out for that, by the way. Realized you were trapped in someone else's narrative without seeing it at first. Recognize manipulation now, but want the tools to neutralize it in real time. If you answered yes to any 3 of these questions, you're not weak, you're not stupid, you were targeted. You were targeted with somebody weaponizing the tools of persuasion and personality and behavioral profiling to find your blind spots and use them against you. And if you're ready to stop that shit once and for all, for the next 21 people who click that link right now, I'm going to teach you how to conduct your own form of mental warfare. I'm going to teach you the tactical and psychological self-defense system that bulletproofs you against unethical persuasion and influence. This is our online mind control warfare, tactical psychological self-defense virtual intensive. This is a 3-day program where we're going to teach you some of the most powerful behavioral profiling, lie detection, and counter manipulation practices on the planet. Things that can truly inoculate you against unethical, unwanted, or unwelcome influence. Okay? We're going to teach you how to emanate authority and calmness on demand. We're going to we're going to redefine charisma for you so that you become an unshakable, unreadable, comfortable in your own skin kind of person. Remember, the way that predators get you moving is by knocking you out of your emotional base, out of your emotional center. They get you, you get your emotions stirred up, they increase your neurological arousal, and then you begin to behave in very predictable, unconscious ways. We're going to show you how to be so rooted in your sense of identity, in your sense of self, in your ability to control and manage your own state that no one's going to be able to knock you off your game for more than a few seconds ever again. And if you do get knocked off state or you do get taken by surprise, you will have the tools to instantly snap back and get back to your best game possible. We're going to teach you how to spot manipulators in seconds before they even open their mouth many times, right? We're going to teach you how to use behavioral deviation, IQ, speech patterns to profile anyone you meet in the shortest amount of time possible. We're going to teach you how to detect lies, how to frame and reframe things, how to develop covert commands on the fly that can really cause people, especially these persuasion predators. What if you were to turn the tables on them and use those very tools to just undercut their ability to deploy influence? It's a very simple, very fast way to do it. I'm going to teach you how to disarm the gaslighters of the world, how to turn the narcissist's own behavioral tactics and weaknesses against them, and how to fend off and protect yourself from emotional parasites and energy vampires. I want to teach you the counter patterns that neutralize those persuasion, predator, or characterologically disturbed people, how to disrupt their ability to influence you in any way at any point in that conversation. I want to teach you how to use ethical influence without becoming one of the bad guys, right? Where's the line in the sand? What lines are you willing to cross? What lines are you unwilling to cross, right? How can you apply influence and protect yourself from unwanted influence that allows you to look in the mirror and like who you see, that allows you to sleep at night knowing that you did the right thing and you protected yourself in a way that was ethical and honest and powerful and effective, right? How to wield influence with integrity, to build shields, not swords. Simulations, role plays, real world breakdown labs, they're all part of this training. Okay. I'm going to teach you step by step how to move through the three magic questions protocol and how to systematically profile, obtain, and acquire information and utilize that information in the most effective way possible. Right. Remember, always be testing. This is a 3-day deep dive. You can learn it from the comfort of your own home. It's a 3-day counter manipulation boot camp, August 29th through the 31st, live via Zoom. You must be there in person, right? But those of you who stay through the entire thing, you will get a lifetime access to the video. You'll be able to go back and watch it as often as you want, as much as you want. We'll transcribe the training and maybe even make some workbooks or study guides out of it. So you have other things you can practice, plus the community that you develop. It's a $2,497 value. All you got to do to get it. So if you took everything that we just talked about, total value on this is $13,579, right? There's never been a program quite like this ever offered before. So here's how you stop being controlled, right? Learn to instantly delete hypnotic techniques and mind control stuff. Right? And I've already talked about this, right? Day one is all about how to instantly detect hypnotic and other types of mind control language and pattern abuse. Day two is about building a behavior-based profile in minutes with no guesswork. Day three is learning and drilling field-tested countermeasures to break compliance, influence, or extreme mental or emotional pressure. That's what we've got lined out for you. For those of you who like this idea, right? Here's what we got. Right? This is the whole shebang right here. Right? Secrets of Human Influence Home Study Course, Weapons of Mass Instruction, Renegade Reframing, Charisma and Conversion, NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, with the unlimited access to the video archive, the Stealth Instant Conversation Hypnosis Crash Course, and the Mind Control Warfare 3-day virtual intensive. It's a $2,497 value. And if you can't make the August training, just let us know. We'll issue you a voucher that's good for any 3-day virtual intensive that we're offering. We have the healing intensive, we have the mind control intensive. We've got 3 or 4 other 3-day events planned that are all virtual. You can use that voucher for any of those. We'll put up the calendar shortly. But right now, your particular voucher is for the Mind Control Warfare virtual 3-day intensive. Total value on this, $13,579. If you're one of the next 21 people to click that link right now, you can get it all for just one low installment of $797. All you got to do is click the link, killerinfluence.com/go. www.killerinfluence.com/go. Reserve your spot, get your course. I'm excited about this because I love the Killer Influence material. I love how it's changed and transformed lives. I know I'm 100% certain it can do the same for you. And I'm excited to guide you and walk beside you on this journey. Click your links right now. I'm going to give you guys an 8-minute break. When I come back, we're going to jump back into the mechanics of the echo technique. We're going to talk about emotional bonding and or resistance removal. And you're going to have the opportunity to ask me anything. If there's any questions that I can answer about persuasion and influence or defending yourself against persuasion and influence, no, no topic is off limits, right? This is what we got. This is what what it will do for you. Click your links and I'll tell you what to do next. I'll see you in 8 minutes. Okay, getting back to work. Got a few minutes left, but for those of you who are on the fence or what have you, go ahead and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Ron Cote, David, ID, what? David, is it possible to influence someone telepathically? All right. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The question becomes, how do you define telepathic? In my Taoist Chinese energetic medicine training, I was given very specific practices for influencing people through their energy fields using my mind for the purposes of healing. Those practices are largely not talked about, um, and I don't need energy to explain how they work. Um, but there is more than enough evidence and scientific research to substantiate the idea that people can be influenced mentally. But I think there are different levels of telepathic communication. And when we talk about things like telepathy, we need to really make sure that we're talking about the same thing. Okay. So the short answer to your question is yes, it absolutely is a thing. Most people don't, most people are actually doing it a lot. They just don't realize they're doing it. Right. Those are things I teach my super high level, very expensive coaching clients. But the short answer to your question is yes, those things are possible. Any other questions? Well, in Killer Influence, we teach you to do it in the room. And then once you graduate Killer Influence and you come to like vibrational influence and vibrational healing, we teach you to do it from across the planet. And what we do is we actually hook you up to machines. We hook you up to blood pressure monitors, thermometers, pulsometers, things of that nature. And we actually have the person who's doing the influence, we randomly assign them a stat to influence and change. And then you actually do baseline readings and stuff like that, right? In fact, for those of you who are interested in that kind of stuff, we have a 4-day training coming up July 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th at the Sahara Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. If anybody is interested in those applications, reach out to Moss at 858-282-4663. And he'll give you the skinny on getting into that training. You have to be a graduate of Killer Influence to get in that training most of the time. Because I'm doing this particular training in sort of in conjunction with the HypnoThoughts Live Hypnosis Convention. That is the one time of year where we waive the prerequisites so anybody can come in. I was telling my megas to make sure they're there this year because I'm going to be teaching things that have never been taught before. And because the group is going to be pretty small and pretty intimate. So if anybody's interested in the woo of influence for healing applications, when you reach out to Moss, he'll tell you all about it. He's been through it a bunch of times. It is super, super powerful. Anybody who's graduated from vibrational healing or vibrational influence, if you guys want to speak to what that training is like, yeah, we don't do anything based on just subjective work. We try to make our training for influence as measurable as possible. And so that's why Killer Influence is the prereq for a lot of advanced vibrational interactions and trainings, because it teaches you how to access your mirror neuron network, your proprioceptive awareness, all the things that we could think of as being energetic, but we can explain through neuroscience. And so I like that approach to things because it's very pragmatic. It's very application specific, and it's progressive, right? You come in to solve problems, you get the ability to solve those problems, and in the process of solving those problems, you actually become a more evolved version of yourself. So Jagdeep says, I've been doing it since childhood. Watching your stuff helped me understand it. Yes. That is actually some feedback that we get from a lot of our people is that they've been doing certain things their whole life. They've had all these different. A lot of people have had a lot of the same trainings and things that I've had or other students have had, but when they get to our community, it puts everything together in a way that makes it seamless and understandable and actionable. The biggest comment I get is that we connect all the dots. It allows people to truly utilize all the learnings that they've had in other places. And for that alone, it's worth so much, right? And Jagdeep says 100% your stuff is gold. Thank you for that. But the truth is that my mission in this life is to show people what's possible and to eliminate as much suffering as humanly possible. And I'm a big believer in solving problems and finding solutions in the quickest, easiest, most consistent way, reliable. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big, in spite of all my pre-certifications and my spiritual training and things of that nature. I didn't start this walk as an altruist, and I have a hard time, even though people call me very generous and very giving. I have a hard time kind of wrapping my head around that because I feel like I'm just doing this for me. I feel like helping you become the best version of yourself, solving the problems that you need solved is in my best interest. Because I mean, I'm being very transparent, right? I love these, I love what I do, and I love the people who come and share these things. And if you, to use an old Radio Shack slogan, if you've got questions, we probably have answers, but there'll be answers you can actually use and apply, right? So thank you for that. Before we move on into the rest of tonight's content, what other questions do you have that I can answer for you? How about YouTubers? When would now be a good time to ask your questions? Oh, great. Oh, Ron, if you already have Killer Influence, but not any other trainings, are you offering tonight? Do you a substitute course? Yes. Thank you, Ron, for bringing that up. If you've been a customer or a student of ours for a while, you've probably seen variations on this package, and you probably have a lot of the courses that we've talked about tonight. If that's true for you, click the link, call Moss, or email Mia. Let them know that you've bought the package. You've raised your hand, but you already have some of these courses, and they will allow you to swap out any program in our archive of equal or lesser value seamlessly, right? As long as the price is the same, we'll let you customize the package any way that you want. Why? We don't want you to have to, like, if there's one course in the package that you need for your collection or you need for your library or you need for your application, we don't want you to have to go through, that wouldn't be right. So yeah, if as long as it's within reason, we're happy to help you customize and cherry pick the exact courses that that are available. In fact, don't tell anyone, but if you guys want Spycraft or NLP Ultra, we may be able to substitute some of those things out. I'm going to hear about that from Moss any minute. I know it. But so I purchased and got rid of all my old courses from my library. You're welcome, Ron. But it's a great question, right? Oh, by the way, the voucher for the mind control intensive, that is a transferable benefit. If you can't make it, but you have somebody that would like to attend in your place, you can transfer that to them and they can attend in your stead, right? If you can't make that particular training, let us know. We'll move you to the next event we do. If you're interested in maybe doing a different 3-day event, let Moss or Mia know. and they will personally move you to that new event. But as of now, the database is going to have you registered as an attendee for the Mind Control Warfare Mental. Ryan says NLP Ultra is a recorded product. Why, Ryan? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. In fact, I just finished finalizing that in our Kajabi platform 2 days ago. So yes, it is available if people might want to access it, right? Um, we haven't launched it yet officially, but what I'm willing to do for those of you who click that link right now and get in on these fast action bonuses, I'll let you sub out something you've already got for NLP Ultra, right? I recommend that yeah, I'll just do that, right? Or Spycraft. For those of you who don't know what Spycraft is, Spycraft was a 4-day training where my friend Chase Hughes and I literally tag teamed off each other for 4 solid days, teaching the most powerful, effective, implementable influence and persuasion skills on the planet. People were amazed at how easily Chase would speak something, and I'd get up and the drills would just flow and everything would synergize. For those of you who would like access to that in place of some of these other things, we have to do it manually. So again, click your link, reach out to Moss or Mia, tell them you would like one of those courses instead, and we'll help you customize your package for you. Okay. But as of right now, you can't get NLP Ultra in terms of, like, you can't go to the website and find it. You won't find it. Right. Jag says, I'm on this, David, I'm the same path as helping as many people as I can. Can you please give me some pointers so I can make money while doing it? Raise your prices, Jag. I know that sounds harsh, but here's the psychology, and here's the what's the word I'm looking for? The Kriya Shakti of it. If you're doing good work and you're making a difference in people's lives, raising your price will only pull more people into your business. It will also simultaneously raise the quality of the people that you're attracting. And at the same time, the outcomes, in other words, the results that people get from working with you, will actually go up. Okay. It's extraordinarily counterintuitive. But I've seen this in my own practice. When I had my practice in Solana Beach, and especially when our YouTube channel first started to hit, my business blew up. I was seeing people like 8, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, on top of teaching and doing webinars and everything else I was doing. And I needed to slow the flow. And stupid me thought, well, I'll just raise the price. That'll slow it down. No, no, it didn't. Right. In fact, I wound up with a waiting list 8 months long for my clinical work. There is something very unique that happens. There's probably a couple other strategies, Jag, that we can employ to help you with that. But there are things that I'd have to do more in a one-on-one coaching. I can't really explain a lot of them in the time that we have and be fair to everybody else. But if you want help with that, I do coach people. I have coaches if you can't afford to work with me, I'm not cheap. You can work with some of my trained colleagues and people who I've certified who are very qualified to do the work. You can work with one of them. If you want more information on that, give Moss a call at 858-282-4663. Tell him what you're looking to do, and he'll go through that with you and in the fastest way possible. Seth is saying NLP Ultra is a class. What he's offering is a recording of one. If you want it live, there's one in August if you have the prereqs. That is true. The first time we did NLP Ultra, last year's NLP Ultra was an influence training like no other. We went through some of the most powerful, advanced, high curve techniques, and these people were bordering on master level by the end of 5 days. It was amazing. In fact, Seth told me not to tell Chase because the power that these guys were exhibiting. The people who go through his coaching programs, they take weeks and months and years to get some level of proficiency. But again, the the magic isn't necessarily in the techniques themselves. It's in how we teach you and we train you in the techniques. It's the training methodology that makes us so powerful. Yeah, we have a few things that are proprietary, like our state control training and the way we approach these techniques. But it's the training process, guys, not the content. The content is awesome, don't get me wrong, but it's the process we use to install these things in you, the drills and the attributes and the priming. All these things come together to synergize within you in a very, very short amount of time. Right? And that's why we always find a way to give you access to live interactive events, because that's when your mirror neurons pick up the most stuff. And it takes the information that's come into you consciously, it takes in the information that we've installed in you other than consciously, it looks at the information coming in through your mirror neurons in your heart, and it brings them all together. And within a very short time, you start embodying and expressing these skills, right? Yes, the content is amazing. I'm very proud of that. But it's the training methodology, the approach we use to take you from zero to hero in the shortest amount of time possible. That's where the magic happens. Okay. Um, so the NLP Ultra course I'm talking about is the recordings of last year's training. For those of you who would like to attend NLP Ultra Live, if you have killer influence training, and we know who you are, or something equivalent, and you can pass our practical exam, we'll allow you to sign up for the NLP Ultra Live training. We're intentionally keeping it small so I can make sure that everybody gets the attention they need, right? There is Moss. Are we doing a Zoom component for NLP Ultra? Okay, maybe he's doing other things. Maybe he's probably on the phone with clients. I'll have to double check if we're doing a Zoom option for Ultra. We did last year for our megas and for our platinum and gold members. So there's probably going to be an opportunity for those of you who can want to attend virtually. Here's the catch, though. If you're attending virtually, you got to have your camera on. You got to be present for the entire training. That's the only way you get certification. And if we find you with your camera off for over a certain amount of time, we'll move you to the waiting room. Okay. I'm a big believer in live events, but I know that the world has changed since COVID, and most people are conditioned, or either logistically, financially, that they can't maybe be in the room live. So if you can't be in the room live, I want you at your camera the entire 8 to 10 hours that we're together for each day, right? That's just how we roll, because my job is to make it awesome, but I can't do that if you're doing 6 other things with your camera off. Okay, apparently people are flooding Moss. By the way, congratulations to Ron for jumping onto this. All right, I'm excited for you, and I look forward to working with you. All right, so let's get back to, you can also email Mia at NLP Power or Moss at NLP Power, and I highly recommend that. We have probably some of the best customer care people on the planet. Moss is extraordinarily patient and kind in guiding people through the ropes and explaining things. Mia is very, very personable and will give you the best information humanly possible and direct you where you need to go. So I'm very proud of my team. Brandon's out there somewhere. I'm sure he's our tech guy, making sure everything runs smooth. Seth is in there. He's not a fit. He's on what we call whack-a-troll duty. So if anybody winds up behaving badly or needs information or something like that, Seth is our research guy because he's got like multiple degrees from Harvard and other places, and he's done more fact checking on everything I teach than probably anybody else on the planet. And he lets me know when I screw things up. Be nice to get a compliment once in a while, but as Chase would say. Anyway, let's talk about let's take this one step further. I'm happy to answer any other questions you have, but I did promise you. That says I got my arithmetic right this time. Thank GTP for that. Anyway, let me go ahead and turn this background off so you have I can have your full and undivided attention. We'll talk about it a little bit later. So what do you guys want to know about? And I said you can ask me any questions you want, but again, this is the technique portion of the class. This is where we can break down and really discuss how to do specific things. So take a moment, if you would, type in the chat what it is you want to know. What do you want to most be able to do? Right? What do you want to most be able to do? What do you want to focus on as a group for the next 30 to 45 minutes, give or take? Bueller? Should I just go ahead with the echo technique and then talk about emotional bonding? Is that good enough, or is there a specific application that you have questions about? Jack says, I heard you say in one video that one can do magic frame inside the gray room. How does that work? Very well. In fact, in the last okay, in the last healing intensive we did, we actually walked the entire group through multiple gray rooms, and each one had a different set of practices. One was the regular gray room, and then there was one with nothing but magic frames in it, and then there was another one with basically these big suits of our identity statues that you go in and you would take the energy out of things you didn't want and plug them into things you wanted to be more dominant. It was a really cool process. Okay, good. So let's start with echo technique. Let me find my flow chart. We're going to start with the echo technique primarily because it is the foundation of every other basic conversational framework that we're going to teach you about. There we go. Let me share screen again. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Okay, can you all see the little diagram behind me? Make this a little smaller. All right, so let's look at this. What you'll see, I'm going to close the chats. So what you'll see at the top of the screen is what we call the echo technique. The echo technique is the fundamental. The way you do the echo technique is very, very simple. Whatever words come out of a person's mouth, you simply work those words into your response in as close to the sequence they came out as possible. So if someone says, I really love your webinar, I really love Killer Influence, and I would love to learn more. And you would say, oh, wow, that's so awesome. So you really love Killer Influence. You think you'd love to learn more. It's so awesome, right? You're going to go, yeah. It's literally that simple, right? As close to verbatim as possible. Sometimes you can't remember exactly verbatim, but as long as all the words are in there, you're going to be stimulating all the same neural patterns or pathways in the person that they use. Okay. From the basic echo technique, we now go into the functional, and this is again what I call the trained certification level application or utilization of the echo technique. We call this the master echo sequence. Okay. The master echo sequence is a universal process. Anybody here do any kind of like martial arts or like Filipino martial arts or Tai Chi or Wing Chun or anything that it requires you to have this rhythmic pattern or movement? Okay, Muay Thai. Okay, I don't know if they have how many people here are familiar with the concept of a flow drill? Does anybody here, how many people here know what a flow drill is? if more people don't know, I'm not even going to use the metaphor. Okay. Um, Let me find a different way to do this, or a different way to explain this. Think about a metronome. Metronomes are used in music because they keep a steady rhythm. And then as you're playing music, you can have as little as one beat or two beats. Like in that same amount of time, you can have two beats or three beats or four beats, right? But the rhythm doesn't change. Or when you deviate from the rhythm, you deviate for a moment and then you come back. Same idea with the Master Echo formula. The echo technique, the Master Echo formula, is the metronome. When you don't know what to do, when you're not doing anything else, you're echoing. Does that make sense? So, what's the difference between the Master Echo technique or the Master Echo sequence and the echo technique? It's in structure. That's not what I want. Okay. So back to our buddy here, but now we're going to zoom in a little bit on the Master Echo sequence. The Master Echo sequence, and you guys should probably write this down or take a screenshot of this. This is really important. The Master Echo sequence starts by asking a question, paying attention to the response that you're getting, validating the response that the person gives you, echoing their words, and asking another question. So going back to a situation where I'm teaching, I'm talking to somebody, and I ask them a question. So I'm curious, what did you love about your killer influence training? And they say, oh man, I loved how it just made everything so easy. Everything just flowed. I was able to control my state. I was able to transfer that to people, and it just connected all the dots. It just made it so seamless and easy. And I loved that. I get it, right? That's so cool that you found that. So it just connected all the dots. It made it so seamless, so easy. How you could control your state, transfer that to another person. I think that's amazing. So just so I understand you better, which one of those really moved the needle for you? What was the thing that really rose to the top? And they might say something like, well, I think it really, honestly, I think it was the state control. Because I think just knowing that I could just dive into to true authority and true comfort, or to turn on the charisma and be like the life of the party, or generate this aura of sincerity and authenticity that everybody felt safe and comfortable around me with. Just knowing I had the skill to just flip a switch and do that made everything so much easier, and made me realize just how important I am to the persuasion and influence equation. If I were applying the Master Echo formula, I might say something to the effect of, wow, I totally agree with that. One of the things that I learned was how important that controlling your state, and how much you are the most important factor in that persuasion process. And just so I understand you better, and I'm thrilled that it made everything so easy for you. How are you going to use that out in the world? So if you're paying attention to the structure of what I'm doing, even though I'm doing this in actually a little bit more of a realistic way, because what happens is when you deploy the echo technique, many times the responses to your questions are going to be like 3 paragraphs long because people are excited to talk. So if you're paying attention to what I'm doing, sometimes I give as many chunks verbatim as I can. Sometimes I just remember the first thing they said, something in the middle, and something at the end. If you have to choose, if people are giving you these long strings of dialogue, remember the first thing they said, remember the last thing they said, their unconscious mind will fill in everything else, right? That's a little bit more of an advanced approach to echo technique. And the reason we call it advanced is because um, it's a hack. When we're teaching beginners, and I don't mean to demean anybody or put anybody down. When we're teaching beginners, their brain has a certain capacity to remember spoken language and remember spoken content. And what we want the persuasion trainee to be able to do is change their brain to be able to recall and repeat longer and larger strings of content. And so we make the students do the echo technique in the most clunky way possible. Remember everything verbatim. And the reason for that is it's going to stretch your neural centers. It's going to stretch the parts of your brain that pay attention to and manage spoken content. What it's also going to do is it's going to expand your ability to analyze and pay attention to the actual words. Now, one of the reasons that this is important is because as people speak, there's this phenomenon known as the interspersal phenomenon. It was originally something that Milton Erickson discovered. He discovered that when people talk, they unconsciously emphasize certain keywords or phrases. And those unconsciously emphasized keywords or phrases have deep semantic, visceral, value-driven emotional meaning to that person. And when the person hears those words, they have an automatic, unconscious response. And we've demonstrated this in the killer influence trainings, where I'll elicit somebody's words, and I won't even use a sentence. I won't even set a context. I'll just look at them and repeat those words, those exact 2, 3, 4 words over and over and over again. And you will see their face flush, their pupils dilate, they get visibly excited and emotionally aroused just hearing those words. Now, we would never do that for real out in the street. But remember that everything about what we do in killer influence is something we can prove. It's something we can test. And so when I'm teaching, I'm telling the students, when I'm interacting with somebody in the audience, don't watch me. Watch the person I'm doing the technique with and watch what their mind and body does. Watch what their eyes do. Watch what their facial coloration do. Watch what their gestures and their leans do. It's going to show you the level of impact that these processes are having, and you can prove it to yourself. Okay. So one of the things that happens is we want to evolve you as the student to the point where those words just kind of bubble up into your awareness and they become the only words you have to remember. But here's the unfortunate truth, the inconvenient truth, is that the vast majority of people don't have the level of perceptual acuity to zero in on those words. They just, again, they're still trying to juggle and chew gum and ride a unicycle at the same time because they were trained in the NLP style way of doing this stuff, which will make you cognitively constipated. Right? I love NLP. I love the information of NLP, but I see over and over and over again that the way classical NLP is taught holds people back. It actually prevents them, in my opinion, from accessing the true power of what they're learning. So we flipped the script on it. We redid everything and made it harmonious with how human beings naturally learn in an optimal way. It's ironic, really, that the most powerful communication model in the world, classical NLP, not killer influence, can't accurately describe itself without causing confusion. Those comments don't make me popular with the classic NLP community. I've resigned myself to that, right? Because my job isn't to help people who think they know everything. My job is to help people who want answers and to solve problems. And so that's what we do. But this is the master echo formula is one of the force multipliers. It seems like a very simple process. You ask a question, you pay attention to the response, you validate their response, you echo their words, you ask another question. Okay? Once you have that formula down, that basic algorithm, you can use it over and over and over again. And what happens is instead of influencing the conversation from the outside, you're now able to navigate the conversation from inside of it because you're aligning with that person's neurology. You're aligning with that person's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic way of filtering the world. You're aligning with their values. You're aligning with their rules. You're aligning with their meta programs. You're aligning with their convincer strategies. All the things that classical NLP wants you to elicit independently and then change and hide. The master echo formula does it all, and you don't have to change anything. Let me close the loop on this. The reason we make all of our beginning students do everything with the echo technique verbatim is because when you do everything they say as close to verbatim as possible, the likelihood of you missing those solid gold nuclear words diminishes to zero. If I repeat back everything they say in as close to the order and sequence that they said it, it's impossible for me to miss those nuclear words that move their nervous system. So rather than cherry pick, we just use everything. Okay, so there's a very powerful, very functional, pragmatic rationale behind why we always start echo training with verbatim repetition. Once you've got that and you've reached a certain level of fluidity with it, now we'll show you all the different ways that you can hide and mask the echo technique in normal conversations, still be using the full power of the echo technique and be completely covert. Right? We cover that it's in your package, right? But this is good enough for today. This is good enough that you can go out into the world and start getting massive results right now. Okay. So before I move on to the next piece of this, do you have any questions? Okay. Well, I will assume since you're either all deep in trance or clicking the links and talking to Moss or Mia, right? Um, Richard's laughing. All right. All right. So let's talk about the next piece. Okay. So you see words like this, just so I understand you better. Or, oh, that's a good one. If I go over here, up here, you see what we have, just so I understand you better. I'm curious. Let me ask you this. These are examples of what we call a softener. Again, you'll get a deep dive on this. This is part of our big secret in the Killer Influence training, what makes it so effective. A softener is what we call a preframe. For all intents and purposes, it sets the context for why we're asking them or telling them what we're about to tell them. In marketing and psychology, we call this the reason why. And basically saying, here's why I'm about to tell you what I'm about to ask you or tell you, right? So rather than say, what do you love about Killer Influence? What do you love about the Secrets of Human Influence program, right? I'm using very obvious examples, right? Rather than being that blatant and that direct, I say, I'm curious. I'm wondering, what is it about the Secrets of Human Influence package that really appeals to you? How's it going to move I'm curious. I'm wondering, how's it going to move the needle for you? Right. And now naturally they're going to answer that question. So, well, I think it's going to allow me to get the yeses I want and stop being afraid and be more comfortable and have people actually pay attention to me and actually have my clients do the work I want them to do. And I just think it's going to overall, make my life easier. And I say, you know what? You're absolutely right. The Killer Influence material will absolutely allow you to hear more yeses and have your clients doing what you want them to do so you can help more people and just make your life easier. And just so I understand you better, let me ask you this. In what situation or circumstance do you think this will help you the most? Right. So if you go back and you watch the replay, I want you to pay attention to how I graphed how I graft one of these onto every question that I ask. Now, what happens is when you use a softener, it makes everything that you're communicating very soft, very gentle, very non-invasive. Even if you're asking very, very invasive, very, very personal questions, it takes the edge off. See, one of the problems with NLP, especially, is that it's super, super powerful. And I don't care if it's classical NLP or my version of NLP or whatever hybrids are out there. There's a lot of different people teaching their own approaches to NLP. But one of the problems that most people have utilizing NLP outside of a treatment room is that it's extraordinarily powerful and in many cases extraordinarily invasive. When you deploy an NLP technique effectively, many times people will look at you like they'll like do a double take. It's almost like you slapped them upside the face with a wet towel or something. And unless they're trained, they may not know what you did that gave them that response. But because they felt such a powerful, deep level shift very, very quickly, they'll know you did something. And that moment of realizing something just happened will cause their defenses to go up. And they'll start analyzing everything you say and everything you do and parsing it, looking for what's happening. Softening allows you to deploy the full power of an NLP technique without triggering that reactant phenomena in people. Right? I did a coaching session last Sunday where I went deep dive into the 4 types of resistance. 3 types of resistance are based on your belief system. The other type is a reptilian reactant phenomena. Anytime you receive an attempt at influencing or influencing your free will that you didn't invite or welcome. And that's what happens in poorly deployed NLP style techniques or languaging, or even Ericksonian languaging for that matter. Ericksonian languaging often goes in a slightly different way, in that it's often confusing and extremely nonlinear. And so people often check out or go into confusion, which also doesn't help you in business situations and things of that nature, unless you're really, really good at what we call combative confusion, which we actually teach you in NLP Ultra in a very easy to use way. So Ericksonian languaging doesn't help you outside of Ericksonian hypnotherapeutic contexts. And the vast majority of people I see doing Ericksonian languaging don't use it well. I'm just being up there, right? Not that I've met a few really good ones. Like I met this lawyer one time. He gave me a run for my money. He was really good. I met him at a meetup back in, oh God, how to be 2017, 2018. And every time I riffed, he riffed back. I was like, oh, all right. We got somebody with chops. And then 3 years ago, he showed up at a killer influence training and was blown away by the rest of the system. Right? I know I sound like an infomercial, but you know what? I'm just going to tell you how it is. You can either call me on my bullshit, get the course and try it, or not. Right? So one of the things that we want to do when we're utilizing hypnotic languaging is we want to make sure that every part of that nervous system is A, paying attention, and B, feeling invited and comforted and gentled into the process. As I tell my students in the class, a covert hypnotist, you should never feel the push, only a pull, right? A covert hypnotist never calls attention to themselves unless it is strategically to their advantage to do so. Using NLP techniques without effective softening calls attention to you that you're doing something. It gets you caught. Okay? You don't want that. Right? You don't want to know how I tested some of this stuff, by the way. I did my time as Darth Snyder. I haven't been bashful about that. But so softening is really, really important. And the reason why we soften is important because if you don't understand why you do something, you'll tend to not do it. Now, the beautiful thing about softening, however, is that you can stack softeners. So one of the biggest fears that people have when they're in a conversation with someone is they're afraid they're going to run out of things to say. And the beautiful thing, the side benefit of softening or having a swipe file of these phrases is that you can stack softeners. You can stack one, two, three, four softeners in a row, which gives you a few precious milliseconds to come up with something to actually say, aside from the actual language that the person's using, right? So, for example, if I were going to ask the question, what's important to you about being able to protect yourself against unwanted influence, right? Well, what's important about, depending on the level of rapport that I have with that person, can seem very invasive. It can put them kind of back on their heels, like, why is he asking me this? Right? But when I do things like, well, I'm curious, I'm wondering, just so I understand you better, if you were to use this, if you were to think about it, what's important to you about being able to protect yourself against unwanted or unethical influence for you personally? Right? So if you pay attention to what I just did, is I took basically the three softener examples I showed you, and I just linked them together and see how it gave me time to think, but it also really, really softened and gentled the entire question, right? This is especially true if you're going to ask questions that begin with why. There's very few times when a why question is going to give you useful information. When we're doing resistance removal, we intentionally ask why-based questions because it causes the neocortex, the youngest part of the brain, to generate a rationalization that we are going to systematically challenge. Because the rationalization that gets challenged gets stronger. The difference is the direction or vector that we're challenging them forces them to resist me in the direction of actually doing what I want them to do. So when we get to the resistance removal formula, that's why we do that. Okay, you guys with me? This means yes. This means no. Brad says I included an assumption. I include assumptions all the time. Right. In fact, that's one of the most powerful ways to use this language is to use it at the presuppositional level. Now, when I start talking about presuppositions, most people's eyes just start crossing. Not because they're stupid, right? But because it's a very trancy subject. And until you've been through a training that allows you to perceive the different levels of communication, it doesn't help you. So we give you a very mechanical, very technical formula to follow. That if you just follow the formula, if you just do the mechanics in the order and sequence that we teach them to you, the influence happens automatically. And as you go through that process over and over and over again, you'll start to sink into deeper and deeper levels of understanding and awareness about what's actually happening. You become the embodiment of influence and perception and awareness rather than just using a tool or a technique. But just doing the tool and the technique in the order and sequence that we teach you allows you to be effective very, very fast. And then you have your whole life to get pretty and masterful and all those other things, right? Because you're already starting well ahead of the curve. Okay. So that's the echo technique. That's how you do it. That's the level of progression where you go from the echo technique to the master echo sequence. From there, you have three choices. You can go into the three magic questions protocol, which we won't have time to do. You can go into emotional bonding, which I think is well worth it. Or you can go into resistance removal, which is another application. All of these applications, resistance removal, three magic questions, emotional bonding, all of them utilize the echo technique as an intrinsic part of the framework. But each one has a very specific set of purposes and contexts in which we apply them. But once you have that basic 5-tier process, right? Let me go back to the screen. Where are you? Can you all see the screen? Okay. So once again, we start here, we go down to here, and then we have a choice. 3 magic questions, emotional bonding, resistance removal. This, if we're in a purely influence driven set, this particular flow is the most linear. If we're, let me find a better line. If we're breaking the ice, in other words, if we're just in a social situation, a getting to know you situation, a non-business situation, then this is the most best way to go. If you're in a situation where you need compliance from somebody who basically dug their heels in, then this is the best framework to follow, right? But once you understand each of these different frameworks, and again, this is part of your killer influence training, right? Secrets of Human Influence. Once you have this basic understanding, then you can weave in and out as you need to and just steer the conversation from within. And then within that, you can deploy all of your language patterns. Embedded commands. You can do storytelling. You can do reframes, the resistant to renegade reframes, right? So many things you can do once you've mastered this basic conversational map. And that's how we do killer influence, right? We teach you the 7-step universal persuasion protocol. We teach you how to control your state, how to get rapport, how to use the master echo sequence, which is your bridge, really, between state control and rapport. It's a linguistic bridge. And then you learn how to do all of these to manage the state of the subject. And then you have all kinds of choices and all different directions that you can go. Okay. People have anybody have questions on how this works, or any questions on anything else in particular? Did anybody else not see the screen? Okay, let's talk about emotional bond. Okay, let's talk about emotional bonding for a minute. Going back to before we go, in case you haven't pulled the trigger yet, remember that I usually only show this 2 or 3 times, and then the opportunity is gone. So again, the program we're offering today on the webinar is the Secrets of Human Influence package. It includes the weapons of mass instruction, storytelling, and neuroscience of narrative persuasion, renegade reframing, instant conversational belief change and overcoming objections, charisma and conversion, how to utilize and deploy hypnotic influence from the stage for knowledge, for installing knowledge, skills, and priming people to want to work with you more. You're going to get the 3-month trial membership to the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, the Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course, the Mind Control Warfare 3-day virtual intensive, August 29th through the 31st, live. Total value on this, again, is $13,579. You can get it all for 1 low installment of just $797, or 3 easy installments of $397 each. All you got to do is click the link now, killerinfluence.com/go, www.killerinfluence.com/go. And we'll go ahead and you can be if you're one of the next 21 people, you'll qualify for these amazing fast action bonuses. When I log off the webinar, the fast action bonuses go away, and they will not be back anytime soon for this particular package. Okay, so by all means, when would now be a good time, like I said before, to click that link and reserve your spot, and we'll get together on the other side and really start making things happen. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about emotional bonding. Like I said before at the beginning of the webinar, there's really only two questions that you need to ask to elicit somebody's emotional needs. Now, this should not be confused with what we call visual profiling of a person's needs, right? If you were to study with my friend Chase, he would have this hierarchy of needs that he teaches in his 6-minute X-ray program and some of his more advanced behavior profiling programs. This is not that. What I'm going to teach you will trump visual assessment of needs. Why? Because they're deeply personal and they're deeply context dependent. When you are visually assessing somebody's needs, you're looking at how they dress, how they speak, um, the kind of what kind of car they drive, the labels on their clothing to determine what their most likely social needs are. It's an educated guess. It's a pretty good educated guess. Don't get me wrong, it's a great system. But you use that profiling system to make generalizations about the person you're about to deal with. And if you don't have what I'm about to share with you, that's great. It's a great place to start. But if you understand that everybody's value system, and hence the emotional needs that they're satisfying, are generally context dependent. For example, the way you go about choosing to buy the Secrets of Human Influence program is dramatically different than the way you go about, or let me rephrase that. The needs that you're satisfying in contemplating the Secrets of Human Influence package or any of the other trainings that we offer is very, very different from the criteria and values, the emotional needs you're seeking to satisfy when you buy a house, which is different from the emotional needs you're looking to satisfy when you buy a car or a stick of chewing gum or make a new friend or see someone you want to date. Every single context will have its own set of values and needs connected to it, even if it's something you never actually considered wanting. Your nervous system will automatically create an internal checklist for what constitutes the perfect anything. So, for example, back in the day, one of the very first products I ever created was, of course, on human sexuality. It was a way to apply the idea of echoing and paying attention and things of that nature to become your lover's ideal partner the first time that you were together. And it was done through this idea of projection. In other words, people are going to instinctively touch you where they want to be touched. They're going to kiss you the way they want to be kissed. They're going to move and interact with you as a projection of their internal checklist, which is connected to their value system. The values that a person has represent the perfect anything. It's the way the world is supposed to be. And human beings are constantly moving through the world looking to make their external environment match their internal one. That's why the echo technique is so powerful, because we're moving through the world, scanning our environment, looking for things that match. And when we find them, we lock in and pay attention. We recognize all the things inside of us that this person or this situation represents, and we just want more of it, right? That's doubly true in the context of relationships, lovemaking, and romance. Human beings in that context will touch you where they want to be touched, the way they want to be touched, at the time they want to be touched. They will kiss you exactly that way. They will say things to you that they want to hear back to them. Okay? In that context. So when we start looking at a person's values and the rules that they use to satisfy them, we are creating inside of them the most powerful towards experience you can imagine. A person cannot talk about their values and their emotional needs and the rules by which they're satisfied without going into an immense and powerful state of desire and attraction for the thing. Conversely, they can't have their values or needs violated without experiencing emotional pain. So when you massage a person's values, they experience emotional torts. When you violate their values, it's a very powerful, very strong emotional away from. This is no different, functionally speaking, than when our hero in the movie Lucifer says, "What is it you most desire?" Right? That same process happens. Right? I'm probably going to get all kinds of flack for using the Lucifer analogy with this process, but Lucifer turned out to be a good guy, didn't he? Right? So um, my point is that that's what you're doing when you open that box. You're stimulating the perfect anything in their world. All you have to do once you've gotten that information is link it to your product or service that most directly satisfies that need. And that's why you have two questions. What's important about blank gives you the surface level thing that they're looking to satisfy. What emotional need it's filling. How do you know satisfies the checklist, the rules that they're using to know when they're getting it or not. The more boxes on their checklist you can mark off, the more deeply and powerfully and compelling your offer becomes. And that offer can be anything. It can be therapy, it can be marketing, it can be a jury decision, it can be um, a job interview. Really powerful in job interviews. Okay, so the first question is, just so I understand you better, let's go with a job interview context. Well, and the way you utilize this in a job interview, aside from the basic echo technique and the master echo sequence, is in every job interview, there's a point where the interviewer has nothing left to talk about, and they'll look at you and they'll say, "So, Mr. So and so, Miss So and so, before we conclude the interview today, do you have any questions for me?" That, my friends, is your go moment. That is your golden opportunity to meld and weld everything that that person wants in the ideal employee to you. This is what it might sound like. I'm going to give you a very brief, very abbreviated version of this just because we're running low on time, but I promised you I would talk about this. Again, we go very, very deep into this psychology and how this integrates into the entire system in your package. So employer says, "So, Miss Doe, just so before we conclude the interview today we move on, I do have some other people I need to see. Do you have any questions that I can answer before you about the company, about the job, or anything relevant that you need answers to?" "Well, why, yes, Mr. Employer. I was wondering. I'm curious, just so I understand things a little bit better, and to make the so we can both make the best decision humanly possible. Um, when you think about the ideal employee, the ideal person for this job, I'm curious. I'm wondering, what are you looking for in the perfect person for this job, and what's important about that?" It's a very good question. For this particular job, I'm looking for someone who is extremely proactive. I'm looking for someone who shows up on time or early. I'm looking for someone who's willing to work as long as necessary and to do whatever it takes to not come to me with problems, but if there is a problem, they come to me with a problem and they have a couple solutions in mind, and they want me, and they let me see what they have, and I give my input. And I think that those qualities are the things that have made our company one of the most powerful and effective leaders in the field. And I'm looking for people that I know don't need to be constantly micromanaged and can actually do the job with the same level of passion and integrity that we're known for. And I think those are the people that really stand out. And I'm looking to I'm looking to find more of those people. Wish I had 100 of them. Wow, that's amazing. So what you're saying is that the ideal employee would be someone who's, always on time or early, is willing to do whatever it takes, and is very proactive. It doesn't always come to you with the problem, but also with several solutions that you get to pick and choose from, and so that you can feel confident knowing that they're going to attack the job with the same passion and integrity that's made us a leader in the field. And I think you'll realize that as we talk about and we go through the different aspects of my job history, you'll see many times where I've taken the bull by the horn, so to speak, and brought in solutions and thought outside the box and done whatever it takes to really, really bring the answers that move the company forward. Because I think as a, as part of the team, it's important that we work together in a way that's synergistic, and that you see in me the proactivity and the stick-to-itiveness that you value so much in an employee. So just so I understand you better, what will we have to do to move that needle forward, or how would we begin to work with that? Well, first thing that would have to happen is we'd have to, really kind of go through the process of vetting you fully and making sure that, you passed certain aptitude tests and things of that nature. And then we'd get you into HR and go through that process. Great. So I'm curious, how soon do you want to get started with that? And what's the next step we need to take to move forward? Okay. So it's a little bit abbreviated, but what did you notice, or what did you intuit or pick up from that interaction? Okay, I think you guys are in trance or something. All right. So break it down in that moment. As I'm talking about, I reflected back to them what I said to them. Absolutely. But then I did something else. I very subtly started talking about the aspects of my resume, my job history, my work history that directly prove and demonstrate the values that the prospective employer was looking for. And this is the big secret. When I reach the point where the person's given me a list of boxes to check, right, I'm going to first reference things that they know to be true from my resume, from our previous discussion in job history, that reinforce the words that came out of their mouth. I'm going to use their words as much as possible in conjunction with those evidence points, those proof points. So what happens, you get a cause and we got the X causes Y effect, or cause and effect relationship, where all of a sudden he views that word with that story and it becomes evidence of my embodiment of that technique. Because I'm using his words, he fills in all the blanks. Then what I subtly did was, and again, I was, in my opinion, I was a little blatant with it, but we're truncated for time and things of that nature. What I subtly did was I did what we call an IU shift, or a variation of an IU shift, where I'm talking about this, that, and the other thing from my past, how we're talking about things. And now all of a sudden I shifted to where we're on the same team and we're working together proactively to make that happen. Right. And then I asked, what's the next step that we need to take to move that forward? And all of a sudden, Mr. Employer started talking about moving me to HR, finishing the vetting process, right? It wasn't a question of whether I had the job or not. It was moving forward with the job, right? And so again, I truncated the process a little bit just for the sake of time, but that's literally how it works. And I've literally had situations where the person I was interviewing with told me that there were 3 interviews I had to go through. I was on the first interview, and while I was driving home, I got the call from the company wanting to know when I could start. Right? Um, extremely powerful. Very simple, right? But this is what emotional bonding does. The secret to emotional bonding is that you have to find out what words they value, the rules that let them know that that word is present, and using your languaging to link that to what you are offering and talking about, and only talking about those things, right? If you have 14 things on your resume, but only 4 of them have anything to do with the words that came out of the interviewer's mouth, those are the only 4 things you talk about. If you try to embellish, if you try to gild the lily and say, well, if they love this, they'll love these, it doesn't work that way. You'll see the lights go off because if it didn't come from their system, It shouldn't be coming from yours. Okay. The fastest way to screw this up is to try to get creative. Soften everything, use your Master Echo formula. What's important about how do you know? Right? That's as much training as I can give you. And with any hope of assimilation today, we have other webinars and other videos on our YouTube channel where I go a little deeper into this. But this is what we call the interview crusher technique. This is something that will allow you to really just beat out the competition over and over and over again. So if you're ever worried about needing a job, this is a big way to level the playing field. Okay. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hope you guys take it out into the world and use it. If you get nothing from this training, then the state control that I gave you and the echo technique, you're already way ahead of the competition. Right. So that's about all I have time for. Thank you, those of you who stuck to the end. Ron says, excellent seminar tonight, lots of info. Yeah, that's my biggest problem. Is one of the things that I use GTP a lot to get feedback. And one of the things it tells me is I gave you guys too much information. I don't know how to do it any other way. And I would honestly, I could do it the way I see a lot of other people doing it, but I always feel like I'm leaving you hungry, which is the smart marketing move. But it's just not how I roll. So that being said, last call. If you haven't clicked that link, you might want to do that right now. So go to www.killerinfluence.com/GO. Hold on a second. That behind me. www.killerinfluence.com/go. And we'll go ahead and get you started. We'll get you in on that live training on August 29th through the 31st. And we'll get your life going. I really hope you enjoyed tonight's webinar. I hope that you take the information that I gave you and you use it to make your life everything you want it to be and more. In the words of the immortal Carol Burnett, I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just got started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. Good night, my friends. I'll see you on the other side.